Meeting to order for Tuesday, August 15th. This is the regular Board of Selectmen meeting. I would ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have an agenda that's packed full of stuff, so I hope people would appreciate if I try to keep things moving, but we want to be informative too, right? Public announcements. Calvary Baptist Church, along with the Hanson Cornice, the First Congregational Church, will be sponsoring a Family Fun Day on Saturday, August 19th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Town Hall Green. There will be many activities for all ages. The Town Clerk's office will be closed on Friday, September 1st and Friday, September 8th. Please plan your business accordingly. Volunteers are needed in the following committees: the 200th anniversary, agricultural, capital improvement, disabilities, elder affairs, energy, finance, Memorial Day Patriot Observance, McQuon School Transition, and Nathaniel Thomas Mill committees. Applicants for appointment and info on the committee is available on the town website at www.hanson-ma.gov. The Water Department has announced a water restriction which allows for watering with a handheld hose from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Sprinklers are not allowed. Upcoming meetings. The final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee will be held Wednesday, August 15th, 4 p.m. at Town Hall. The Open Space Committee will be Monday, August 21st at 7 p.m. Selectmen will hold their meeting on Tuesday, August 29th at 7 p.m. And the final Plymouth County Reuse Committee will be held on August 23rd and on August 30th, both Wednesdays, at 4 p.m. at the Town Hall. All right, on our agenda, I may be moving things around to try to make some more room, but right now we're going to move to the swearing in of our new firefighter, Michael Reamer. Jerry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Mr. Chairman, would it be okay if I spoke briefly for a few minutes before swearing in?
Absolutely.
Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity. Back on July 26th, I was away on vacation when we had a building fire, and I wanted to take the opportunity to recognize the efforts of the department while I was away for that building fire. First arriving crew, great size up, great judgment, and mounted a very aggressive interior fire attack which contained the fire to the room of origin. We had a good turnout on callback, which allowed us to establish a water supply right away, and then those members were able to right away get in and assist the crew. There was damage, however, I believe that their actions stopped it from spreading further, and we had one civilian injury that was minor. As the fire chief, it's my opinion that there's two things that are very important for our department to continue to be proficient in what we call high-risk, low-frequency events, and that's staffing and training. And over the last few years, you've seen me up here several times, swearing in newer members, promoting new lieutenants. So we have come to the town in the last couple of years and asked them for additional funding, and we received it. So on behalf of myself and the members of our department, we just want to thank the past and current members of the Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, Town Administrator, Town Accountant, as well as the residents who support us at town meeting in May. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On another good note, before we get to firefighter Reamer, we were notified on Friday from the federal government that we were awarded a federal grant for a forest fire truck. This is a very competitive grant process. We're in the 13th round, so they're starting to run out of money. But we were going to receive a grant for $199,000 for a forest fire truck. There is a cost share for the town, and our share is about $99,500. The replacement of this vehicle was slated for about 3 years from now, but obviously getting this grant at a minimal cost to the town, we're going to move forward and get it and be able to remove it completely from the capital plan for many years.
Chief Thompson, could we take a minute to just applaud the efforts of your staff? You were going on such a roll there, and I didn't want to stop.
Chairman said it was going to be a long meeting.
No, in all honesty, I think most of the town heard the fire engines going on that day. It was in the
I
In the
did.
early evening, wasn't it? I know, you were on vacation, yeah. But, well, a job well done. I read about it in the paper, and I obviously heard about it from Jerry, so, in sentiments with what Jerry said.
Great job.
Great job, absolutely, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jerry.
Any other questions about the grant or anything like that before we move on?
No, but excellent work. That's
Awesome.
amazing that we're only gonna have to spend $9,000 for that. Yeah.
All right, so we're out to Firefighter Reamer. He's our newest member to get sworn in. Firefighter Reamer is a lifelong resident of Hanson. His father and his grandfather both call firefighters in our department. He was a student intern for us as a senior at Whitman High School, and when he graduated in 2012, I actually remember the night at the end of graduation when I asked him what his plans were after high school, and he was not 100% sure, and told him to sign up, and he did, and within a month he was on the call fire department and going to some firefighter 1-2 training. So that was back in 2012. He became an EMT, worked for a private ambulance service to keep his skills up, and then also attended paramedic school. So back in last June, we had an opening, and it was probably the first time in a few years that we've actually had call firefighters from within the department that were enough that were eligible for a position. So there was 3 of them. We went through a process, and Michael was the top rated candidate. So he was hired back in July. He went to the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy recruit training program in December, graduated from class 250, and his probationary period ended on July 7th. I know he was looking forward to that day. So before we have Ms. Sloan come up, do you guys have any questions regarding our process or anything?
No, sir.
No?
Great.
Awesome. Come on up, Mike.
That's terrific.
You're gonna take a picture, Jerry.
Okay, that's fine.
Michael in the picture, not me. All right, go to this right, please. Do you, Michael Lehman, solemnly swear that you will faithfully and impartially discharge upon all duties incumbent upon you as firefighter to the best of your abilities in accordance with the bylaws of the town and the laws of the Commonwealth? Congratulations.
No offense to Mike, but God, I feel old.
So Michael's going to have his badge pinned on by his mother and father. I don't know how we're going to decide this, so I'm going to give it to his mother.
Yeah, there you go. There's always first blood drawn here, so. Yeah. Congratulations. Good job. Thank you, Jerry, very much. Thank you, guys. You're welcome to stay or you're welcome to go, whichever you choose. Please leave. Oh, yeah, are they here too?
Yeah.
For the update, that would be,
Yeah.
okay, why don't we, we have some people who wanted to, why don't we just, I'm gonna try to move things along in different order, I hope people appreciate it. We've got Mr. Clarkson here tonight from the town of Hanover. We've got Mr. Hayes here tonight. We've got Eric Dressler, is it Eric? I pronounced it wrong. Yeah, Dresser, apologies. So I'm going to try to prioritize some of you guys as best I can, okay? I know we've got Anne Marie, so bear with me, okay?
got
I
the
promise.
Rosewood guys.
We got the Rosewood folks here tonight,
Yep.
right? Okay. So what I'd like to do then is, do we have the Kennedys here tonight?
I'm not sure they were going to be able to make it. I don't think either one of, any of the appointments were
gonna be here tonight?
Mrs. Bates was not going to. I asked her when she was here. Mike took the applications in for the Kennedys.
Okay, so why don't we move directly to the, I assume you folks are waiting for an update on the sand situation, right? So, Mike, why don't we jump to that point? Would that be okay with you?
Yes, of course. And I
Update on
certainly-
Roseburg Drive.
I'm certainly interested in their input as well. My understanding is that the removal of sand has started. I was up there just this morning and saw, I mean, as they're well aware, it's a mountain of sand up there. But it looks like maybe a quarter of it is gone, a quarter of it has been moved. Looks, you know, an appreciable chunk has been taken out of it. My understanding is they've been up there the last several days, moving it to a site that's more central on the property, and that we did receive a response from the property owner, who said that you know, obviously he's willing to do what he needs to do.
He picked up the letter, too.
Yes,
didn't he, Mike?
well, yes, he picked
Thursday?
up the letter, the second service of the letter he picked up, and he responded with a letter to the health agent, to Matt, and saying that, you know, he will move forward, and he has been moving forward, and, I mean, I welcome to anyone from the neighborhood, are you happy with the way things seem to be progressing?
I hope, well, if I could add something, Mike? Mike was on vacation last week, so I apologize, and Mike, I'm not trying to overstep you or anything on this, but I had come in on Friday, and a woman, Tammy, I forget, Tammy, right? Yep. And came down, and myself and Matt, the health agent, went down and saw the mound, where they were putting it. And we had asked them to stop putting it there. Matt did, actually. Yes. Matt did a great job. He's very good, very good. We did really well get in there. And they broke it up into, Mike, they took the pile and broke it up into different sections of the property. So they didn't put it, they tried to make it even for everybody, right? Wasn't that the word, Tammy?
Well, that's what I said. I said if you put a little here, a little there,
Yeah.
you know, I think, you know, I think it would make it a lot easier for everybody.
Yeah.
And
as
long as it's not over the, you know, the burn, like
Over the
where
burn.
it was, he was
Yeah.
over mine. It looks like he might have chopped it down a little bit.
Yep.
But,
Did they push it down, do you know?
no, it's still up, but it looks like it's a little bit less.
I was there when he asked, and they
Yeah.
said that they would. I'll ask
Yeah.
Matt to put in a reminder,
I
too.
mean, it looks pretty, you know, good, you know, I
Yeah.
mean, what they've been doing and stuff. I think it's great that if they do a little bit by, you know,
Yeah. I would like
keep
to...
it down. I think it would keep it down.
I would like them to still put, Matt was talking about, we talked about, one of the solutions was try to put mulch on top of it.
Yeah.
But you can't, because
It'll
then you have to...
contaminate the soil.
Yeah, you'll have to
Right.
re-sift the soil and take the mulch off, whatever.
Right.
Because they had put this very expensive glue to hold it down, and that had washed away. We saw certain sections where it washed away. I would still like to see them put some sort of tarps on top of it.
John had that
That'd be the
high-tech
cheapest way to
solution.
do
I
it.
agree with you.
Yeah.
And Matt even suggested of using some of the tires up at our transfer station to hold them down. We're willing to offer them
Yeah, and
for free.
I discussed that with you. I said I was at a quarry and I saw what they did.
Yep,
And that they put tops down and I joked that they put sandbags on the
on the
corners.
point, or sandbags,
You
yeah.
know, and they were all, you know,
Yeah.
enclosed. And they, you know, and this is what they did on top of theirs. And
So-
they kept it completely down. There was no wind at the day that I was there.
That's
And I was
good.
like, wow,
Yeah.
you know. I said, maybe this is what he should do on some of them that are, if they're close enough to, you know, people's houses and stuff,
Yes,
to keep it down.
to keep the sand from blowing.
Yeah.
So, and to your point, Mike, if they were still doing it this week, because that mound was massive. It
And
was
mine was,
huge.
yeah, it's a little too
And
much.
I think I was encouraged by the fact that they were trying to do the right thing and break it up to where they are. I don't think that they're complete yet. I'd like to maybe find out maybe on next week or two, whatever.
Yeah, my understanding is it's going to take a couple of weeks, because
Yeah.
obviously the enormous amount of that sand,
Yep.
but to your point, I do think they topped it. It looked like they had,
They did top it over behind Sean's house. I walked back there tonight just to see how much was taken out.
Okay.
And
Well,
they
it's-
did top it, you know, down, you know.
It's still, it's,
It's above it.
the sand pile that's the original one.
Yep.
It's still behind, and it's still high. It's almost 50 feet tall.
Behind
And it's
you?
Behind us.
They're supposed to cut that in half.
They have not cut, they're taking it off. They are cutting the pile down, but
Okay.
they still haven't.
From the bottom.
Taking it from the sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, it's still a hazard. We talked about it being a hazard.
Yeah.
I think that it's more of a hazard now because the chopping, they can't get their front end loader up to the top and take it from the top
To
and
push it.
take it down.
Yeah.
They're starting from the bottom. Well, what they're doing, and I saw this morning, actually, excuse me, yesterday, when I went out there,
is sometimes the dirt slides on its own. So nobody's out there working, but sand shifts or something like that, and this is sliding down. So it's not shored up, in my opinion. It presents a hazard. And again, tonight, while we were outside just doing some yard work, the wind has picked up, and the sand from the top of this pile is blowing all over the place again.
Well, again, Sean, I'm hoping that we gotta talk to Matt, because Matt has the authority to press to him to make sure that, I think he's gonna press him to cover it, okay? I don't know, I'm not a I don't know what they're doing. I know that they're taking it from the side, and I thought the idea was to take it from the side and then somehow to push it down halfway. Do you know what I'm saying? So you take half the pile away, and then you push the top of it, you're gonna kind of like level it out.
They can't get their
He
equipment.
can't get up that
Up
high.
the top?
They can't get equipment high enough to the top to
Okay.
push it down.
In a way, what Brian's saying is it's almost exacerbating the situation because the pile's still there and now it's like loose.
Whatever glue is on
Whatever
there.
glue is on
Yeah,
there.
it's-
Yeah.
I will say we
Have you
have,
guys called Matt to let him know too, again?
Matt was there this morning, I saw
Was he?
Matt out there,
Okay.
talking to one of the gentlemen who was in the front end loader.
Okay, because I have confidence, and did you guys speak to Matt about your concerns and what you're still experiencing, or no?
No.
Okay.
I can express that.
Would you?
Okay, but Mike, I think that the main thing is like, yes, it's great that we now at least have opened up, I don't want to call it a dialogue, that might be an overstatement, but a line of communication. That he is responding, but I guess, the main thing is, these folks just don't want sand blowing in their backyard anymore. So what is he going to do in the immediate future here?
In all honesty, and it was Don who had said it at one of the previous meetings, and it made absolute sense to me, and I don't know why none of us really came to it in the first place, is tarp it. When they're moving it, they move it, and then top it overnight, or tarp it when they're not active. That's, how much could that possibly cost?
Could we
Yes, and I'm
gonna
advocate
speak
for
that
that?
to him.
Yeah, okay.
And I know Matt had said something to him about it.
Yeah.
But I think now we can also say, well, that's great, you're moving everything, we really appreciate it, but you're experiencing shifting, which I can picture perfectly. Overnight, can you just top it off?
They're supposed to be doing it, I thought, every day, so are you guys seeing it? You see it more than I do.
They were out there yesterday and today.
Okay.
Yeah, they were.
I do know that Matt was going to suggest about the tarps being placed on the top.
Mr.
They're
Hicks.
charcoal.
Mr. Hickman.
Scoops of dirt.
Brian, Mr. Watson, when I came and visited you and Maureen, I'm sorry, Brian, when I came to visit you and Maureen, the day after the last time you guys were here, in the corner, there was a small portion taken out. So now, just from listening to you and talking to you last night, you're saying they took down that whole side, which has actually made it more dangerous,
Yes.
being untopped.
He has a picture of it tonight.
I have a picture of it as well from tonight.
And you still can't use the grill? You can't cook outdoors?
That's nasty.
I mean, I don't know why I called you Sean.
He's Irish.
I think I'm following Tammy's script.
I mean,
Yeah, no,
they've worked on
Yeah.
that. I mean, the
Yeah,
top still is not covered.
But the question is,
It's still
how are they gonna
blowing,
cover the
and now
top?
that's not shored up.
Yeah.
At least
So now it's
beforehand, it was
It's all
so.
compact.
Now it's not showing up, and sometimes it slides down on its own.
Yeah.
So, God forbid if somebody's out there, and granted, they shouldn't be playing it, the property is posted, I will say that. But God forbid if somebody's out there and all of a sudden that caves in, now we're gonna have an incident.
Yeah.
And the guys next door are gonna be coming over to dig that person out. And yes, they are moving some of it, but first off, it's taking them too long to answer, number one. And number two, my opinion, my professional opinion, something needs to be done about that. And they should be working out there every single day, getting that pile out.
I'll tell you what, if you guys could leave your contact information, Brian, I'm sure we have yours, but if you folks could leave your contact information with Mike,
I gotta have all the
He's got all-
Mike will talk to, Mr. Howard, sorry.
Brian,
Yes.
are they working just in one section, or are they working the whole width of the bank?
They took the whole width of the pile,
Yeah.
so they exposed
Well, they're not digging out in one place, what I'm getting at.
No, he's going straight across,
You're working the
the
whole
whole
width.
thing.
Okay,
It's rather neat.
because if you just work one area, it causes a problem.
Small
So
corner.
much more
And
area.
now
But they're working the whole thing?
area. But this pile was like all the way down. It was sloped like that at first.
Yeah.
But now
Well,
it's almost straight.
that's a normal slope.
Yeah,
But I mean,
but it's coming down.
as you dig it, you're gonna get a more vertical slope.
I understand,
But as it dries out,
But he's saying there's little landslides, there's little landslides, so.
Okay, so, with all due respect to you folks, I promise Mike will call you tomorrow. We'll speak with Matt and have him speak to the owner.
this-
Find out what the plan is. I know that they can't get to the top of the pile because it's sand, but I'm not a contractor, so I don't know. I think the only way to approach it is in the manner in which they're doing, and I understand that you're appreciative of the fact of what they're doing, but it's still a problem, especially on windy days.
Then cover it.
We
Do
gotta-
what you're doing, but
I
cover
don't understand, I know, I don't understand why, go to Ocean State Job Lot, pick up a couple of cheap covers, right? I mean, for 20 by, you can get the 20 by 40s, 6 of them, and cover them up with the tires, and it's
They don't
not, it's
cost
cheap
that
money.
much.
Doesn't cost that much, so I've suggested that to Matt, I'm hoping Matt suggests that to Mr.
I just
Hasiotis.
have,
No,
I'm
mental
sorry,
plan.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one other question for the Watsons, because I was back there, and I was just discussing it with Mike, and we're not sure how far the berm is supposed to be away from your property, but I was in your backyard, and it was less than 8 feet. Danielle, do you know what it's supposed to be?
Well, from the town's bylaw, I believe it's 200 feet.
That's what the
But that's
bylaw
where
says.
My question as I'm sitting here out of my chair is, that I'm very grateful he's moving the pile, but to me, that's a process, a step that has to take, but I want to see this fixed for all Hanson residents forever. So if we don't have policies and procedures in place, we need to put them in place. And if there are laws that we currently have and he's not following, we need someone policing him. But if he was allowed to take all of that material out, but our bylaw says he needs to keep 200 feet, what's the plan to put it back then? 'Cause-
Well, that's a whole other quagmire, which we
Yeah.
started to talk about, and we've got to involve conservation to figure out if he's got the agricultural exemption, whether that permit, we had Jay looking into, and I don't know if we heard back from Jay, but.
Jay's our legal,
Okay.
okay? Our legal,
Well, what you might want to check on that then is, yes, it's supposed to be 200 feet maybe from the property line, but there is wetlands out there. There is a swamp right there. So maybe, legal needs to check and see, can he put this within so many feet of a wetland?
Well, see, Brian,
also?
that's the thing that we got into a little bit, which we kind of don't want to get because it's not a hearing, but what we got into at the last time that we were discussing this, and just prior to discussing it, was that, yes, in fact, it is wetlands, but there's an exemption for agricultural use. So, which basically means that if you meet these requirements, and again, this predates, like, this being, determined as an agricultural exemption, and whether it's a farm, and whether it's been continuously used, there's all kinds of different things. And we were having Jay look into these things, because there are a lot of ways that a cranberry owner could not be subject to those particular bylaws. And so we need to be careful about whether we're saying he is or is not until Jay gets back to us on that.
What's the timeline on Jay? It's been
Mike will have to.
Mike will get back to you, he'll have to call you and give you the status updates on it.
Okay, I guess that's kind of where I'm a little, like I said to you, Laura, the other day, I'm a little sad. I was on vacation as well last week, that there was no follow-up. There's been no one sent an email. What if he says no to the tops? What's plan B? Are we supposed to live for the rest of the summer and into the fall? And as the leaves go, the wind's gonna get worse and our land will get worse. What's plan B? What time frame are we looking for here? Because as you all know, it's been April that we've been living with it. Like, in your area, we've been talking to him longer than that, so.
Well, we'll have Mike get back to you tomorrow or the next day, Mike, would that be okay?
Yeah, I'll touch base with
We'll
Jay
touch base
again.
with Jay and Matthew on this, okay?
Okay, and
I
plan
can't
B,
tell
if
you-
he says no to the talks. Mike has been telling me I can't force him to do anything.
If he
So
says,
what are you gonna
all I
do?
can tell you is that if he
Which
says
is
no
the
to the
truth.
tops.
I do not have the authority to do
I
it.
Yeah, we
understand
don't,
that's
but the
what I'm
Board of Health does.
Yes,
About the
Matt
Board of
does.
Health.
He
Board of
he
Health.
doesn't.
And that, the Board of Health does, not Mike. The Board of Health,
Well, are they saying that it's a health issue now?
it's a health issue.
It's a health issue
That's,
because
it's a,
of blowing
it's a
dust.
health, it's under the Board of Health
Okay,
And
that's
that
not
Matthew
what
was
the Board of
dealing
Health
with.
meeting told us.
Yeah.
I understand that, Danielle, but at the last meeting that
said
where we
Board of
all were,
Health.
Matt was definitely saying,
Yeah.
and Jay agreed, that that was the angle that we, right now, until we figure out the other legalities,
Yep.
right now, we know that under an air pollution irritant kind of angle, that would be enforceable by the town. And so that's the letter that Matt delivered.
Okay.
That to the property owner was
You guys
saying.
did not see the letter.
Yeah, okay, so that's really was saying, like, you need to respond because we're gonna pursue. So that is Plan A, it's not even Plan B.
Yep.
That's Plan A, and we know we can pursue it. Plan B is really what Mike's gonna get back to you with,
Okay.
on
That's
Jay.
fine. When we left
Yeah.
Board of Health meeting,
Yeah.
they were told, we can't help you. So
Well, no,
that's
it's
fine.
actually Matt. Matt's the
Yeah.
health agent.
Yep,
And because it's a health
And that's-
concern, he has the authority.
yes, okay.
So
That's
he
not
does have
what
the
he
authority.
communicated
Yeah,
to
he's
us.
definitely
Okay.
owning it and picking up the ball. That's why he's been
Perfect.
out there and, yeah, looking at
I
it.
just have one follow-up question regarding
Sand?
the property line, okay? He's agricultural, I'm not, but my property line has been encroached on 8 feet, you know.
That's not a question for us.
What, if anything, is the town going, and that's, I know you're talking, he's agricultural, but the other side of that property line isn't.
That's where our legal counsel is going to be looking into it. That's the point that they're going to be looking into.
Yeah, and just so you know, Jay is highly experienced in land planning. He gives talks all over the place, like we're so lucky to have him as somebody. So he really understood what we were asking, and he had some digging to do.
And just so that you know, the markers are placed there when the property was being sold. The previous owner had the land surveyed, so those are this guy's markers, not mine. So,
You know what, Tam, we mentioned this a bit too. It might be in your interest to go to the assessor's office and get a plot plan for your home, and it typically shows you where your lines are going to be. And it's most of the time, like mine goes off the corner of my house, which is a fixed point, so I know how far out it goes, if it's 50 feet or 100. And that'll help you give a guide or an assessment.
I think you guys probably know where they are, because you had that addition, so.
But it's just good to know and have to.
the whole
Line.
this property line is clearly marked all along all of our properties.
Well, that's where I'm hoping Jay comes through when he says how far they should be moving. But the good news is that at least they're doing something about it, and then that's not totally ignoring us.
So when Mike reaches out to Jay, Mike, are you able to communicate directly to these guys so they don't have to wait for the next selectmen's meeting? Kind of let us know and then let,
He will.
okay.
He will. Okay, but again, if it becomes the Plan B issue, it's going to be a health concern. It is a health concern, so, all right. Okay, more to come. We've got, next on our agenda is I'm going to take Troy Clarkson. Troy Clarkson from Hanover. He's going to give us an update on the Hanover fireworks site and the detonations that have been going on, right?
Up to the lectern, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
Also with me tonight is Gerard Martin from the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection.
EPA. Nice. Welcome.
My name is Troy Clarkson. I'm the town manager in nearby Hanover, and it's been my pleasure to work with Mike over the last month or so, and working to provide information to you and the citizens of Hanson on the ongoing cleanup at the fireworks site. So my role as the town manager really is to be the point person for public information. The activities, the regulatory oversight is conducted by the DEP, and the daily oversight of the detonations in the site is conducted by the Massachusetts State Police Bomb Squad. So our role in Town Hall is, as the property owner and as the local government, is really to find ways to keep the public, that's both Hanson and Hanover, informed, engaged, and to provide information on the ongoing activities. So obviously, the detonation of ordnance is not a normal occurrence, and so we've tried to find ways that we can share that information, warn people of the activities at the site. We've done that in a variety of ways, and we'll continue to do that. We have a very active social media presence on both Facebook and Twitter, and post daily updates on the fireworks site and a host of other issues on those sites. We have a dedicated fireworks page on our website that has a wealth of information going back more than a decade of the investigative reports and some of the information that we've developed over the years. The website and the social media postings have daily updates when we anticipate a detonation at the site. We provide advance warning on those sites. That information is conveyed by our fire chief to your fire chief, and also I maintain pretty much daily, but certainly frequent communication with Mike, so that he can keep you informed. I've had the opportunity to speak with the chairman, so I try to be responsive to that. Working cooperatively with the DEP, the towns of Hanover and Hanson recently put together a newsletter that was mailed courtesy of your friends in the town of Hanover.
Thank you.
To every...
You got more money than us.
To every address in both Hanover and Hanson. I have some extra copies here.
I got one. I got them in the mail the other day.
Yes.
Nice job.
So I'm really here to answer any questions you may have, to take suggestions on how we can both continue and improve on our communication. We are working on yet an additional tool, and this sounds sort of rudimentary, but we think it'll work. We're working with National Grid to obtain actually an old telephone pole, and we're going to place
a horn?
A horn.
That'd be terrific.
On top of that pole. Right now, there are 3 horn blasts before every detonation. Depending on the weather, sometimes you can hear them here in Hanson, sometimes you can't.
Right.
So we're working to install a horn, literally, that will have 3 short blasts before every detonation that will provide an additional layer of warning to folks. So we do anticipate that this work will be ongoing for some time, and so we'll continue to try to find ways that we can keep the public informed. We're working with our colleagues at DEP to schedule a public meeting. There's a date tentatively set for that for sometime in late September, but it's not set in stone yet, so when we know exactly when that's going to be, I'll reach out to Mike and let you know. But that'll be an opportunity for the public to come, and we anticipate that the DEP and the State Police Bomb Squad will be there to answer questions in a very public forum. So we're intent on, the police chief and the fire chief and I recorded an informational video that we've shared on our website and on social media. And one of the things that we said on that is that the site is secure and the site is closed to the public, but the information is not. We are intent on being very open and transparent and sharing information about what's going on there. I had the opportunity to take Mike out there. Your fire chief was out there with our fire chief as well a couple of weeks ago. So really trying to be good neighbors. I can tell you I've been in government for a very long time, and I've not seen the sort of cooperation that I've seen at this site. The folks from the DEP have been fantastic. The State Police Bomb Squad are very, very professional, very safety oriented. They've been great to work with. So the good news, well, there's a couple pieces of good news. One is the site is finally getting cleaned up, right? And that's news that we have waited for decades. And the other good news is that the agencies are all working very well together in the public interest, which is perhaps something we don't hear too often about government. So I'm here to extend the hand of cooperation to you and to pledge that we'll continue to share information with you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question. What's a long-term, excuse me, Jim, what's a long-term, what are you going to be doing with the property in the long-term outlook on that property once it's cleaned up?
That's a great question. So the selectmen in Hanover have formed what they call the Fireworks Site Focus Committee, and it's a group of residents who are right now meeting regularly and talking about that. There is money available, and Gerard perhaps is more well-versed in this subject than I, but it's called NRDA, or Natural Resource Damage Assessment Funds. And so there's a pot of money separate from the cleanup money that's set aside for habitat and natural resource restoration after the cleanup is complete. Okay. And so we hope that folks in Hanson will join us in really brainstorming on what the best post-cleanup use is of the site. It's actually a beautiful area right on Factory Pond. You know, there's the bridge that links our two communities, and it just certainly lends itself to to passive recreation use. But that'll be determined, I think, as the project moves forward.
And these
That's
grounds,
a very public process, too.
Right.
Where we really solicit ideas from the public about what this NIB money, what projects this money can be used for. So it's really one of the best parts of my job, is because you actually see real good change at these sites.
now, it's important to know that these grounds are currently closed, right? You can't trespass onto them until this is done.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, one of the most important facts, and we tried with this newsletter to show in very plain detail that the trails surrounding the area, and in fact the pond itself, which is accessible from both Hanson and Hanover, is closed temporarily for recreational use. Not only did we send out these maps, we purchased dozens of very large, very colorful signs that have been posted around the site. Because of the sensitive nature of the operations, when the contractors aren't on site conducting activities, there's a presence there to make sure the site remains secure. So it's important for the public to note and to understand that there is not public access to the site while this operation is occurring.
So Troy, it says till September. Is that how long the detonations are gonna go? I hear they're gonna go longer. Is that true?
So that information was
It says
developed-
anticipated at that time.
What we knew at the time, and as the work unfolds, what I've pledged is to keep Mike informed, and it's possible that it will continue beyond then, but it's really what the professionals on site discover on a daily basis.
Okay.
So what we'll do is keep you informed, and if it's going to go past September, then we'll let you know. And happy to come back here and provide regular updates as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Clarkson, the one question I have is about the code red, and how might that work for, in case anybody watching at home, I've read it, and you'd get a phone call. Am I right?
Yes.
How soon before the blast would you get that phone call or email or text?
Typically, when we conduct the code reds, and I'll explain what that is in a minute, those calls or texts go out generally about a half hour to an hour before the blast. So we try to make them timely because folks are busy, and we don't want to do it 4 hours ahead of time and then have folks forget. The code red is what many of us know as reverse 911, but it's a local version of that the town of Hanover has purchased, where the reverse 911 is typically conducted through the sheriff's department, and they've been very supportive and great to work with. The challenge, of course, is that when you need a reverse 911, is typically when everybody needs it, and so it can delay the calls from the sheriff's department. So we purchased this code red so that we could conduct a similar outreach just in Hanover. The challenge for the code red, I think, as it relates to Hanson, is we're working with code red to find a way that we can expand the borders of that, because the product, because we purchased it, right now it's limited only within
To Hanover
the
residents.
town of Hanover. So, but we're trying to work with the code red folks.
Hit me.
What's
I
that?
got the call from
Did you?
it.
Okay, so
In Hanson.
that's great. So you signed.
But I'm on the opposite end of the factory pond.
What we
on Minna
also
Street.
have done is, we have done some reverse 911s through the sheriff's department. So one of the challenges for us in this is because people get their information from such a wide variety of sources these days. We're trying to find ways to compete with, pick your news outlet. My office is not a political one, so I won't name a news outlet.
Patriot Ledger was in a couple weeks ago. I mentioned it.
The
I saw
Ledger,
that.
that's a good.
It was in there 2 weeks ago, I think, Saturday.
I can tell you, I get it on Twitter from the Hanson Highway Department.
Yeah.
And that's been great, because we have several Twitter feeds, and when we fan it out, lots of the other communities will do that. One of the things we've learned with the reverse 911 is we don't want to desensitize folks to those calls. So we've tended not to use them on a daily basis, and only use them when there's something that, a larger detonation or something, the weather is such that we think it'll go over a larger area. So we try to drive folks to the social media sites, the website, and once we get this the horn up and running, sometimes that basic
That'll be a big
way of
deal.
outreach is the most effective. I remember when I was a kid, I grew up in Falmouth, and every day at 4 o'clock there was a fire whistle, and you could hear it for miles around. And so we're emulating that sort of warning system.
I think you're right. I think the horn will make a big difference. I live on Beechwood Road across the pond, and I don't hear the horn, but I hear the detonation, the windows shake and stuff, you know. Nothing compared to what you guys are experiencing with the wind and sand blowing, I'm sure, you know what I mean? But if you feel like Hanson's going to hell, and of course, the way things are going with the detonations and the sand.
I think to Troy's point too, and we have been talking about it, and he brings up a very good point in terms of desensitizing people, getting a phone call every day. Not only that, but you know, we're trying to find a way that those sorts of calls in the town of Hanson will be limited to the parts of Hanson that are affected, so that people in South Hanson off of Main Street or in that area aren't getting these calls, and again, being desensitized, and to be quite frank, maybe a little irritated at getting the calls.
No, it's a good point. I'll tell you, I've gotten used to it. It usually happens between 3 and 4.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. So when it happens between then, I know what it is, and now that we have the information in front of us, I feel more comfortable with it. It seems like that, so it seems like they must have found a huge stash of more explosives, right? It sounds like that. Maybe you guys can't tell me.
Actually, I could, if you'd like, I can explain a little bit about our involvement recently.
Sure, if you, please, Len.
Well,
absolutely.
Sure.
Be quick. Please.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, you received a letter, but you probably get lots of letters from us and don't know what they necessarily are.
I actually saw Troy's.
From July 31st. So actually, they started out, the cleanup they're doing is under what we call the Massachusetts Contingency Plan. It's the set of regulations we use to clean up hazardous waste sites. And it's also referred to as the MCP because we like to speak in acronyms. So I apologize if I do. But they wanted to go out and start doing some of the cleanup of the soil. And there's some soils out there that has lead contamination, zinc contamination. So they filed a release abatement plan with us saying we're going to go out and dig up this soil and get rid of it, fully anticipating to encounter some unexploded ordnance. And when they went out and started doing that work, actually, as they were setting up to do the work, one of the unexploded ordnance professionals, we call it UXO guys, noticed in the area they were setting up that there was some stuff that indicated that there was unexploded ordnance there in an area we weren't expecting it.
Okay.
So they called it into us, we had them fence it off, and then they started digging into the area that they were going to clean up the soil. And what started out as a soil cleanup, maybe dealing with a little bit of ordnance, turned into dealing with a lot of ordnance, and we're kind of not really thinking about the soil that much at this point. So they're encountering a lot more ordnance than we anticipated, different types of ordnance than we anticipated, in different areas than we anticipated. So that kind of made us step back. Now this release abatement measure they were doing is voluntary, so they can stop it at any time they want. But when we saw the change in the amount and the types of ordnance, it no longer became voluntary. We actually called it, they had to do an immediate response action, which is something they're required to do. And we also wanted to expand the immediate response action. So the letter we sent out on July 31st explained, you know, keep doing what you're doing, but now you have to do it as an immediate response action. We'd also like you to investigate these other areas where there's some indication that ordnance may have been used. So it broadened the area that they have to investigate. And one area is actually across Factory Pond from where they're currently digging, where we think there may have been a place where they shot some of the ordnance. So given that, as Troy pointed out, we wanted to check out the pond between that location and where they're digging now. So it did become broader. It became much more complex. So I think initially when we were starting to work on the neighborhood notice and stuff like that, we've gotten more information since then, actually. And every day we get more information. September is early. Okay. In fact, we asked them to submit a plan to us August 21st. And in that plan include a very detailed schedule on how they're going to address all the things we've asked them to address. And it's going to go beyond September, just to be the one to manage expectations here. Yeah. Good cop, not so good cop.
Well, I feel bad because your flyer said, you know, the flyer said to September. The quick question, and this will be my last. The intensity of the detonation seems to sometimes vary, where it's more intense sometimes than others? Is it because of the location, or is it because of the amount of that's being detonated? Do you guys know?
I can't say, I haven't been out there many times for detonations. My observation,
Yep.
and this is as a public policy professional and not a UXO guy.
Yeah, I understand.
Is that generally is very weather dependent.
Okay.
That the detonations seem to be more intense in the surrounding areas on day with low cloud cover.
Okay.
And so.
No, that makes sense. Okay.
What we have done, I've been on site for many, and Mike was on site for one. We've gone over to Waterford Drive, which is right on the border with Hanson, and the police chief, the fire chief, and I sat on Waterford for one of the detonations to try to gauge that, and it really
There's some days.
not solely,
yeah.
but I think in many cases dependent on the weather. So you can anticipate a day like we had yesterday.
Mhm.
Probably be more intense, a sunny day like hopefully we're gonna have more of later this week.
Yeah.
It'll be less intense.
Okay, that explains.
I know they do try to, when they're gonna blow stuff up, they try to calculate how much explosive material there is and leave it at a certain amount.
Right.
And sometimes some of the unexploded ordnance they're finding has inert material.
Okay.
Okay, so that explosion is gonna be a little less.
I understand.
Sometimes it's all reactive material, and that one might be a little more, but it's not gonna go above a certain amount. So it probably is more the weather.
Okay.
A cloudy, drizzly day, it kind of muffles it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you both very much. Any other questions? I want to thank you both for coming in and explaining this to us. I appreciate it gratefully.
Troy, I have to say I'm impressed with your explosive knowledge.
Well, I was saying to Gerard before, I got my start in my career working at the military base on the Cape.
Oh,
Right up there, so that experience is coming in handy.
That's pretty good
These days.
They're doing the same thing there, detonations, but they're usually in the 40-pound range of explosive material, where out here we're at 3 pounds. So a little different.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to take a second to say how much I appreciate Jared coming here, and I've actually been in touch back and forth with your office. They've reached out to me, individually to keep me updated. We had a very good conversation with one of your colleagues about a week and a half or so ago. So I greatly appreciate that. And as far as Troy goes, Troy has just been a wealth of information. It's been a complete, transparent, open door. As he mentioned, he reaches out to me almost on a daily basis to keep us up to date on what's happening. Mm-hmm. And it actually goes beyond that. Troy and I have spoken in the past about some of the issues in that area in terms of the current contractor there, and the fact that there were some noise complaints here and there, both on the Hanover and the Hanson side. Troy's been great in terms of reaching out to me and involving me in those sorts of discussions. And we have a wonderful relationship, both personally and with our neighbors to the north, in the town of Hanover. And it's wonderful.
Absolutely, thank you.
If I may say one more thing, about the schedule. Mm-hmm. This thing has been changing, like I said, every day. We're getting more information. We're looking for our response on the 21st. Troy mentioned that we're looking to have a public meeting. This was a tough time of year to do that. Sure. When we're talking about it, you don't want to have it the Thursday before Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day, yeah, right.
We'll get criticized for that. So we're looking at a little bit after Labor Day.
Yeah.
We'll have more information. We'll hopefully have the schedule in for what they're doing, a better idea of how long it will take. We are working with Hanover and Hanson on frequently asked questions that we've been getting, and hopefully we'll be posting those on both websites, and we'll be adding to those as we get more questions, and maybe we can start, and obviously the public meeting, we can talk about what the schedule is really going to look like.
Perfect.
So I think we're doing everything we can to inform folks, because as somebody mentioned, it's not something that happens every day, and it is a little different than we anticipated.
Again, I'm very grateful, and thank you both for coming in.
You bet. Happy to come back anytime.
Yes, so look forward to it. Thank you. Thank you both.
All right. Have a good night.
Okay, so we've got three more speakers. Mr. Hayes, would you be inclined to give us a quick update on the school, please?
Good evening. As you know, or you may not know, school's opening August 30th, Wednesday. Not that long from now. Some will be ecstatic to get back, and some maybe not so happy.
It's a quick summer.
But the schools have been going through a deep cleaning, and a deep cleaning means tearing the rooms apart, turning the desks over, de-bubble gumming them, on and on and on of all the cleanings. Each building has its own challenges, as you know. McQuon, the project at McQuon, the roof project, finally completed. Alma put the final cap on the chimney and the door that they had to have specially made that goes out from climbing the stage ladder and crawling out onto the roof has been installed, and I've been informed that that is done. I haven't been up on the roof. I'm actually going up on the roof tomorrow, but they tell me that that has been finished and completed. So that job is wrapped up, and that building is ready to go. Indian Head is same thing. It's been cleaned up. There's been some issues that have been happening over there, but they have been taken care of, and that building will be ready to go. Hanson Middle, there's been some changes in how you enter the building to make it more secure.
Oh, that's right.
For security reasons for students entering and leaving. So there's been some changes, and that's getting wrapped up, and that's pretty much ready to go. We've all done some tours of the building. Regarding the high school, the field is being replaced. If anybody's been up there and looked, it's unbelievable what it looks like.
I heard the new field is looking great.
Yeah, it's really looking good. It's on schedule. I've been there every day for about 4 or 5 days because it keeps increasing. More and more is done. Some of the gates have been removed. There's major seal coating ending when it's all done. The drainage part of it, we found part of it that wasn't draining properly in I believe it's the north left corner of the field, sort of down by the ticket gate. So that was torn out. The drainage was redone and then tested to make sure that this is not going to happen. As of yesterday, they had sewed everything in. They cut out pieces, and so there's going to be no more maintenance on the field. As far as, the lines and all that are going to be permanently installed in the turf. So you don't have to paint them, change them, or any of that. That part's all done. And there is a maintenance agreement with that. And that building I was in that building touring it today, and that building is ready to go. So it appears that everything will be going fine. Pat Dillon is heading up the transition from McQuon to Indian Head.
Yep.
There is a little bit of confusion with that. We've had people calling us, and we've been referring them to Mike, as far as there's a transition committee within the district that is transitioning students from building to building to building. That has nothing to do with the reuse committee for McQuon School. And because, like I said, we've had people calling up and saying, we want to be on the reuse committee.
Yeah.
It's a different committee, which it's easy to get the two confused
Well,
because.
since we're calling it the exact same thing, it would be very easy to get it confused.
Exactly.
We might want to revisit the name,
yeah.
yeah.
We'll check, we'll consider it with the town or something, yeah.
And there's probably going to be a lot of people overlapping on the same committee.
Right.
But that's kind of what's going on in the district. Pat has been working very hard to make that transition and make sure that everybody knows. As you know, it's a whole year. So as the year moves on, I'll be back informing the board what's going on and how it's progressing.
Right.
And also we'll be informing people in the town so they'll know. If anyone would like from the board or anyone would like to take a school tour to see what the buildings look like, contact me. I can do it after work. So it's convenient for anyone that would like to go.
Sure.
And we can
Take a quick tour.
certainly take a tour. And the same way at the high school. For anyone that would like to do a tour to see what the buildings look like, we'd be more than happy to do that. It's fairly easy to do, and like I said, night is probably better. Everybody's out of work, and we can do that probably in an easier fashion.
I went to lunch with Mr. Tranter on a Friday, and I saw the changes that were physically being done at the Hanson Middle School. So as you come in, you'll force people through the office. There'll be no more of this, if somebody really wanted to come in, they could have gone in and went straight into.
Walk by.
So this will force them into that area. It's a great security measure. I like the changes, and they matched the floor tile. They did a really great job on it. So kudos to Ernie and his team. I think Ernie's been overseeing it, hasn't he?
Yes.
Right? So
He's been overseeing several projects this summer, and we seem to be wrapping it up. I mean, the last week to 2 weeks, it always ends up in the crunch of things happening, but we will be ready.
And I know Dr. Ruth Gilbert-Whitner also sent us a letter giving us an update, a high overview of who's doing what. You've got Kyle Riley, the administrator for special education.
Yes.
Right, and pupil personnel services, in working with Tricia Poinier Collins, is it?
Yes.
And she gives a description of what's going on there, so I appreciate her sending us this letter and keeping us all updated too. Bob, thank you.
Well, like I said, it'll be better if we come whenever you need us to update you on anything, so the communication is better and it's open, and that way everybody knows, and anybody watching will have the opportunity to figure out what's going on.
We definitely will revisit the name of our committee, and then we're going to need you guys to queue up people to join us because on the reuse, because we know you've got a wealth of information with Ernie and all the studies that were done about McQuon. We need to leverage that and get a hold of that information. I know we've got some of it. Mary and Mike have shared some of it with me, but pretty much come September, we got to hit the road running and get on, really on with the discussion of what are we going to do with that property.
Oh, there's been tremendous amount of suggestions of what we should do and how we should go. Laura, you and I.
Well, we've got openings, so I hope people
Anybody that's
sign up.
listening, there are openings. Several openings on every committee in this town, so please help us.
Exactly.
It would be good to reuse it with the new roof, well, not new roof, but repaired roof, so, absolutely.
I think we're in good shape there. We're having the burners inspected as we're required to by law every year to see how the tubes are and making sure everything is safe so that the students are safe in them, in all of the buildings.
Great.
So that's
Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask Bob if you're comfortable speaking about those couple of things, because Ernie did bring me up the other day, up to McQuon, and of course, we've been made aware of the interest in moving forward on the boiler repairs at Indian Head. I mean at the middle school, I apologize. It's my recollection that you had wanted, or the schools had wanted to make those repairs, at least at the middle school, back at the previous town meeting, but for logistic reasons, it was delayed. Now it seems it's an appropriate time to move forward on that. So, we have every expectation that we will move forward on that and then seek the reimbursement at the special town meeting in October, as opposed to having looked for the reimbursement at one of the previous meetings, either at the special in the past spring or in the annual. In addition to that, you talked very briefly about inspecting the tubes at McQuon and the fact that we've got 2 boiler systems there that, well, I don't want to say they're in failure, but they really need some decent attention. And again, I thank Ernie for bringing me up there the other day to get an appreciation for what's going on there. While I don't have the exact figure at the top of my head, I believe it makes sense. I know that it makes sense to move forward on the repair of those 2 boilers, regardless of the fact that we're going to be decommissioning that school fairly soon. Obviously, we've got a season to get through. We've got a school year to get through. We're going to see cold weather. It really doesn't make sense to fix just one of them. We need a redundancy there in case one of them breaks. In my investigations, and I know that this sort of question may come up, that why are we putting money into a system that basically we very well may not be using a year and a half from now? In speaking with Ernie, and I don't really want to nail anybody down on this particular point, but it seems to me there's resale value to those things as well. So the fact that we're putting in maybe $18,000, $19,000 into fully repairing these things so that they not only work through the next school year, but potentially years ahead, we very well could see that investment actually double or triple if we go out to sell those particular items. So I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I believe we need to move forward on both of these things.
It's very similar to servicing the burner at your house before you go. You call the repairman up and you get it done now, it's straight $400 or $500.
Right.
Well, picture the difference between the burner at your house, like this, and those burners are as long as this table and this high.
Yeah.
And they're old. So it costs, the relevancy of the cost is much greater because they're giant commercial burners, and when they do the evaluations, obviously they have to do a much greater testing. And in the last 10 years of playing with those burners and being there and looking at them like you were, Mike, I understand that heating system a little bit better, and it's much more of a cost because it's much more of a test to make sure that it's safe.
Yeah, and we really don't have the luxury, maybe that's the wrong word to use, it really is something that needs to be attended to, not only for the safety of the students, the well-being of the students, but the fact that if one of those boilers does go down, and we've only serviced the one, we could very well see those pipes burst, freeze and burst, and then we won't have as many options going forward in terms of reuse. So there really are an awful lot of reasons to move forward with that, even though a year from now, or almost a year from now, we won't be using that school as a school. And again, there's a very, very real possibility that should we decide not to use the building, demo the building, whatever with the building, that we could actually double or triple, our investment in those boilers and those heating systems by surplusing them out and auctioning them off.
That's right, and I know, just for the record too, if anything were disastrous to happen while we had students there at the school, we have contingency plans in place, right? I know that they can bring in 18-wheeler trucks that have heating units on them, that keep them, so forth, so on.
We've kind of had that contingency plan going on for quite a while, Jim, because there needs to be a backup plan to every single thing you do.
Yep.
When you have municipal buildings, I mean, you'd need one here.
But it's expensive too, and we'd rather not go that route, so.
Yeah, nothing's cheap in those effects. You could spend $18,000, $20,000 on the first phone call bringing them down here.
Sure.
So, I mean, I think it's money well spent, and you have to get through at least one more season.
Right.
And it could get through 5 more seasons.
Right.
Again, we're all speculating, but maintenance is something that I think is valuable as a tool to save the town money. I really do, so. But anything that you need, if you want to come up and inspect or any of that, come on up. Let's do it.
I might try to take you up on that.
Thanks, Bob, I will too.
Yeah, not a problem, just call me. I'll meet with you and we'll go up. My card still gets us in,
Any other questions, comments, or?
No.
Thank you, Mr. Hayes.
Thanks for the update.
Oops.
Sorry, add just one thing, and I know in the grand scheme of things, it's really small, but I was on the playground committee for that. playground
McQuan,
fund.
2005, Danielle?
Oh, yeah. I've heard rumors, Ruth thinks she's gonna pick it up and move it to Indian Head. That sucker's not going anywhere.
I was there too, with you. I got the T-shirt that says 2005.
Ed can tell you how much concrete is in the ground.
Yeah.
He dug the holes for every single one of them, and I know.
I haven't heard that rumor, and I'm on the McQuan
No,
reuse
she
committee,
talked about
so.
me.
She talked about picking it up and bringing it to Indian Head.
Won't work.
All I can tell you is the post
Put it out there.
the post next to the slide,
I
there was a
was there.
huge rock there. Do you remember that one? I'm not going there on that one. I still have the T-shirt that looks brand new,
I just,
2005.
it's the only playground we have in town, so, and I know as this committee moves forward.
No, I know.
I'd be sad to see that building go and us not have access to that, or for it to be taken down, and it would be destroyed before it could be moved, so if the school thinks that's an option, I'm telling you right now, it would cost, it'd be cheaper to put a new one in.
Well, it's town-owned property, right? I mean, the school really,
No.
Right.
yeah.
I don't think the school, that was a discussion, and many people, it's just something they make assumptions, because they say, well, I had a playground at my house and I gave it to my neighbor.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, I'm
Well,
saying
this is a
some
commercial
roofs.
playground.
So-
I'm up there with my grandson all the
Oh,
time.
yeah.
That's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So no matter what happens with the building, that playground could probably stay there until
I would
it
hope
falls
that
into
the
some-
town can come up with something, whether the building is sold or taken
Duly
down.
noted. We will note that as.
If you could
Yeah.
help join the committee with Laura, because I know she's got some great ideas. That would be terrific, Danielle. I know.
Jim, you just.
She's already
I just,
Sometimes.
What's
when you
another
do
one?
that,
I know.
no, but you're
As far
right.
as you mentioned the Indian Head, we are looking at the Indian Head playground to see where it's gonna go. I know that some of the residents in the town have said,
Yeah,
just move that one over there.
yeah.
It's
It's not
not
that easy.
gonna happen that easy.
It's just we have one playground.
Well, and you're right, Danielle, because we're also talking about that, the gymnasium, which was used by basketball. Cheerleading used the cafeteria to
Right.
practice with. I know that we hold our elections there. We're gonna have to rework all that stuff if we don't have that building to us.
Soccer,
Yes,
football,
all
yeah,
that, so
I mean,
hopefully we'll find a good reuse for it, yes.
Yep. We've got a couple of people that have come forward with some interesting proposals for reuse, and we'll discuss that with the committee and kick it around and get public input.
I got a lot of
But
faith
duly
in that.
noted, the playground.
I got a lot of faith in Laura. She's really good on that.
Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Hayes, very much. I appreciate it, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
So next on our agenda, we've got two more people. I've got Eric and I've got Mary Ann to speak. Is Eric here with us? Where's Eric?
He's in there.
Eric and Beck. So which of you two would rather go first?
Mary Ann, ladies first.
You want, Eric, would you be okay? Please, thank you very much. Mary Ann, you're up, and Mary Ann is here to discuss an update from the final Plymouth County Hospital Committee. We've got to change our names.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been meeting for a year and a half. Don Howard is chair. We've been working well together. So what I want to do is give a brief update and then ask a couple of questions, get approval, or ask for approval on one or two things. So first of all, I just want to say that we've planned a walk at Plymouth County Hospital. Oh, thank you. It's so cold in here.
I couldn't understand it. Your teeth were chattering.
I know.
It's a meat locker in here today, yeah. I love it though, but that's okay.
So we wanted to get people up to the hospital grounds to see it, and we've planned a walk for September 9th at 10 a.m., meeting at the food pantry parking lot. So we'd like to just get that out and publicized, and I'd also want to say that Conservation came up, had an intern and has flyers and a brochure for the walking trails up there. So I'll have some of those here, and they're up in the Conservation Department. So first of all, I'd like to just say what's happened, not to go into big detail about it, but the Plymouth County Hospital was demolished. It's gone. There's a green field now where it used to be. We asked the town for 1.8 million, and Mike would have complete details, but it came in much under budget at about 1 million. Is that 1.1 or something?
Yeah.
You know, it's not fine. There's still some things going on up there, but it came in well under budget. So we're very pleased with that. I would like to just remind people what is going on up there, that there are basically 3 different sections of land. The southernmost portion where the hospital was is one plot of land. The middle section where the pantry is, and it encompasses a bigger space, is the second section.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a long, thin piece of land that leads out to a couple of meadows. That's what the brochures are for, and that's the third piece of land. And that is primarily geared for open space and walking trails.
Right in front of the parking, yeah.
So we focused immediately with getting the hospital down, and then we started to look at the middle section of land, and primarily are looking at what we can do to make it public use for some kind of park. And we've...
Which, that dog leg to the left, you're saying?
No, so there's the southerly section, the middle section where the food pantry is, and the community garden, and a lot of green area. And then the north section is the...
Yeah, to the left, behind the water tower.
If you're looking at it, behind the water tower to the left in the meadow. So that is geared for open space and trails. All the studies that we looked at, that was always the idea from all of the parties, to really keep that for trails and open space. So we're looking at the middle part and trying to get some kind of designs in there for park and recreation. We're talking about playgrounds, all different uses for the general public. There's been a lot of requests to have that happen in surveys over the year. And so what we've been trying to do is find an organization, a group, a design firm to help us come up with some kind of design for that. So we went and looked around this year. We had some for-profit ones. We looked at some graduate schools. And the Conway School of Design was a very affordable group that was asking for $7,000 to come up with a design. We applied. We didn't get it, but they said if you wanted to do it next year, we can do it. So we looked at some other places. We got another quote that was a lot more. Mike recently signed, is that true? You did sign a contract for next year, starting in January, hoping to get the information back to us by May about suggested uses for that middle section, keeping in mind that we're thinking about park and recreation and public use for that area. So it feels like a long lag time. So we're also thinking, we've been talking for months and months about what else we can be doing in this lag time. So we have a pre-application into the Community Preservation Committee, and I'll come back to that because that's a question I'd like to ask the Board of Selectmen. The Community Preservation
pre-approved it pending approval of the selectmen. And so you have that on your iPads, and we'll come back to that. And that's for doing some of the things that we can do in the meantime to get the land ready to be used for a park. For the other sections, the south section where the hospital was, we had a lot of people coming through last year. We had developers, we had a lot of different ideas, and it didn't look, a lot of things didn't pan out for that land. One of the ideas we had is for having a solar array, and Mike is looking and working with starting to get the word out about solar brokers who might be able to look at it. And we also thought at the same time, this is up to you, but there may be other places in town that are more appropriate for solar also. So
And that is what we're...
What's that?
That is what we're pursuing, both, jointly, whether it makes sense on the site that you're discussing, or we've got another couple of sites that we're thinking about in town, and this particular broker will assist us in both efforts.
Right.
I mean, that's a good point, Mary Ann, because, and Mike, because a lot of people have come to me and said, look, you're putting solar panels up there and we can understand and appreciate that, but typically that type of thing is put in an area where people don't, like if you look at Braintree where they've placed their solar panels, they've placed them along Route 3 on a landfill, right? You don't really want to put something like that next to a park, maybe, right? A solar field array to look at. But the good news is that there might be some other ideas in town to put a solar array. And we could maybe keep that area as nice up there, you know what I'm saying? As opposed to putting a solar panel farm up there, you know?
So we've also been trying to prioritize. We can't do everything all at once. So we're saying this first phase is looking what can be done with that middle section, and we've looked at ideas for the southern section, but we're not focused so much on that. So the solar is one idea, and that people have said recreation fields, and that's still to come down the line. So we haven't been focusing on exactly what should be there. We also have talked about other funding sources. There are some parks and recreation for the state that we can apply for in the fall. There's something for state trails. We went to CPC, so we're trying to find funding to have a minimal impact on the taxpayers. Though there was a discussion on our meeting about being so much under budget, if there's any possibility or any discussion at any point of asking, not so much for, we don't want the money, we don't want the $800,000 that wasn't spent, but is there some potential to have a small chunk of that, to have it in reserve if we needed to have money to go ahead and move forward on something? So we didn't really get into that, but that was just a discussion.
I think you'd have to probably look at how the article was.
No, we can't do it now. That money's gone.
Yeah.
But just if there's
It's a
goodwill
great
of
idea, though.
townspeople, goodwill of townspeople, because so much of that wasn't spent, whether or not there's, at some point to say, well.
I wish government would work that way.
As she kind of hinted around to, it would all have to be reauthorized through a town meeting vote.
Right, no, we understood that. It would have to be reauthorized, but there's just, psychologically, it's a.
Mr. Howard has a quick
No,
question.
have you met with Al about that other material to be removed?
Yes.
Mr. Howard's referencing to a large.
No, it's a street sweeping.
2 large piles.
There's 2 large piles there.
I only saw one from across the way, but I believe you, I do.
No,
It's huge. I didn't think it was so big, but it's huge.
It is.
It was still there, I saw it.
Yeah, there are a couple of
Well, that's,
piles.
Yep. It's from,
One of the things.
leftovers from sweeping the streets of Hanson.
Right, and so they're looking at whether or not, they discovered already that there's not hazardous materials in there.
Yeah, we're going to be able to move forward with it. It's both
And
the
the
streets.
antenna's coming down too, right?
Yes, the antenna's coming down too. Actually, not to get too far afield on this, but I did reach out to the auctioneer to have him reach out to the person who purchased it for all of $10. And their intention is to get somebody up here within the next couple of weeks to bring it down. And from what I understand, there is a length of time in which, if no action takes place, we'll just take it down ourselves. It's got to come down.
And the street sweepings, what kind of timeline are we talking about? Because I know Mr. Howard raised these concerns a while ago.
Yeah, well, the problem was, and we have reached sort of the end of the rainbow on this, is we had to get the permission from DEP. They had to do testing, and that's not something that unfortunately can be done very quickly. But we have received permission to move both the street sweepings and, even more importantly, the catch basin debris. That was actually more of a concern because there's all sorts of different things apparently they could call up and those sorts of things. So the thought, the plan is, and we have talked with conservation about this, and they're all right with it, is to remove some of the scrub vegetation from one of the corners, actually not that far from these piles, to take that scrub out.
The eastern side of where the hospital was.
Yes, and to fill it with this particular material. Because it would cost an awful lot of money to truck it out. It just, and as Don has mentioned, the intention was early on to use that, but for various reasons that didn't go forward. But we're still pushing forward, and we'll remove that. Well, not remove it, but we will reallocate it and actually increase the footprint of the potentially redevelopable land up at the hospital.
And when you say we, are we saying highway? Who's moving the material?
It would be highway.
Okay.
Yeah, we would do it internally. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so,
Mr. Hayes.
Mr. Hayes has a quick question.
I have a question.
To Mary Ann or us?
Both.
Okay.
Anything that goes on at the hospital, am I correct in saying it has to be voted at a meeting, a town meeting? In
Yes.
other words, I'm hearing parks, I'm hearing walking trails.
Yes, that has to be, yeah.
I haven't heard anything about a potential maybe for sale sign. Because some people.
Well, they'll come back and give us the options.
That's what I'm saying, so this is, I'm asking.
Yeah.
I'm not being.
No, I understand.
I'm trying to figure out.
Reminders of what's going to
So
be
that's
done.
a question more for her committee.
Okay, but it's something that has to be voted one way or the other.
Yes.
right, we can only give recommendations, and then we have to come
Okay.
back here to the selectmen, and some things you decide what goes to town meeting, so.
Yep. Mr. Howard?
No, I just think we're trying to, they're gonna make up an article so that the people will vote on it when they vote in October, isn't that correct?
I believe we're going to put something together, yes, for October.
On whether or not the townspeople wanna have it as a park, recreation, or whatever.
Okay, so you're going to
So
present
that,
options.
after we have the different options
Okay.
that they can vote
Yeah.
on, then they can pursue and go in the different angles that they'll be going.
All right, then that will give you guys direction of what people want.
Right.
So that is the thought process, that there'll be an article with some options?
I don't,
It wouldn't be binding. It'd be more of a,
Almost a survey kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Non-binding.
Non-binding.
Non-binding survey, but get options to find out what the people want for the town of Hanson.
Okay.
It's the best way to find out what a majority wants for it, yeah.
and the other thing we'd like to do, with one of the questions we have, is if we might be able to do a short, did this last time, I think we kept it short enough, but a short presentation at town meeting, so we can share with people what's upcoming. So, and I did forget to say that the funds for the Conway School were through conservation, the $7,000 that came from the Conservation Committee. So I'll just say that priorities for what we're working on, and then ask you to, about the community preservation pre-application. So our priorities, we have 7 of them in rank order, is we're looking at the municipal park planning. That's what we're working on now. At the same time, we're number 2 is to look at water tower easement expansion. The water department is interested in having a second water tower, so working on that. Number 3, potential solar array going on at the same time. The superintendent's residence, which is on High Street to the left of the food pantry. It's one that we've brought up here before as potential sale of that, but it needs to have an appraisal and have that worked out. Number 5 was public recreation trail and access to the open space area, so working on that, what you were calling dogleg, the trail in the meadows. Number 6, potential residential site on Pierce Avenue. There's one plot of land on Pierce Avenue, which is at the south end of the property, which could be something that's sold. We met with Habitat for Humanity because there's we've talked about affordable housing, maybe for one unit of affordable housing, so that's something to explore. And then 7 down the road to look at the former County Extension Service building. And I would say that the potential solar array, number 3, is also what are the other uses for that land apart from the potential solar array. So those are the 7 things that we're looking at, and this that we handed out to you has more details about each of those. So I just have the community preservation application. Should I stop for questions before I?
That's item 12 on our agenda, is it, Mike?
I've read it. Sure.
This is the pre-application for the...
So with the timing and trying to get things in, we applied before we had the full approval from the selectmen. We wanted to just get it in because of the timing of the CPC, Community Preservation Committee meeting. So some of the things that we applied for are things that we need to do to get ready to have the land, the central section used. So they're staking out park boundaries near relative to other uses like the food pantry, the water department, the Bonnie House that's there, all those things, so that boundaries need to be made. Have a couple of public meetings facilitated by some planning organization so we can get more public input. Engineering services to identify infrastructure above and below ground, things like fencing, water lines, sewer, water tower, a lot of different things, stormwater structures. And then 4, figuring out how to protect and preserve desirable vegetation, and then how to remove the undesirable. So much is just overgrown, things that we don't need to keep on the land, figure out which is which, and then have some of that removed. So we start the process of doing that, and we can do that while we're waiting for this other proposal to be done. So we requested from CPC $50,000 to do that. They want more information. This is just a pre-application. It's to say, okay, this looks like something we can go forward with. They said yes, pending approval from the selectmen. And then they would need to have a full application in a week before their next meeting, which is September 6th. So it's a tight timeline. We're able to help, but it's really something that has to happen from the town administrator level, I think. I'm not completely sure who.
You mean the full application?
The full application.
No, that would be from you guys. That would be from the committee itself.
It is? I thought
yeah, we merely would be an approving committee giving you support. But you're the proponent. You would be the proponent, the Plymouth County Hospital Committee.
Okay. Well, there's a lot we would need from, yeah, we would need things from you. Maybe that was what, we'll just throw some information in there.
So are you hiring, I'm a little unclear from this pre-application, are you hiring a consultant who's going to identify and act to protect desirable vegetation? How are you going to?
Well, that's what they want more information about. We wouldn't do that ourselves, so we would need, they wanted us to get more information about who would do this type of thing, exactly, better estimates about what these things would cost in the full application.
So somebody would come to, okay.
Yeah, so we would not do them ourselves.
Okay, I mean, because I've got a lot, like hosting a minimum of 2 public meetings to facilitate by planning organization. Like, if you told me that you guys were hiring a consultant that was going to provide all of these services, or several consultants, and I mean, I'm unsure of like, where did the $50,000, is that just like a wild?
It's at this point a guess, and we need to have a better information when we do the application process.
Okay, and
they said they wanted more firm funding amount.
Okay.
We don't know.
I mean, so, maybe because I'm fresh out of CPC,
I know, you know better than we all do.
But, and they certainly can do things the way they want, but typically the pre-app is not something that the Board of Selectmen would approve. We would approve it once CPC has kicked the tires, vetted the project, made sure that you've got all the backup, answered all of these questions. If you're just sort of looking for us, like, hey, would we support generally for you guys to go to CPC for this? I think that's fine, but.
We could give you a consensus.
Yeah.
Okay. So they said approve it pending Board of Selectmen approval. I don't, that's what they said. I wrote the words down that he said the other night. So
basically, we can't do anything until we find out what the public wants to do up there.
Okay, I mean, if, like, endorse you guys working with CPC. I've always thought that it was, something that should happen. And it's a logical place for community preservation funds to be spent. I would just feel much more comfortable if there was a more detail in what it is that you're asking us to approve. Conceptually, I'm on board with you guys.
That's the idea, is it okay to move forward with this and get more detailed and submit it to?
I mean,
I would say yes.
I'd make a motion to say that conceptually, we're on board with you, not necessarily approving this pre-app, because that's not really our job. But if you're looking, for us to say, hey, we'd love you to work with CPC to get some funding to study, the park and development of park and vegetation, all that stuff.
In the past, Laura, we didn't approve it until it became an article.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, so I would say you'd have our consensus,
Yeah, I'm just motioning to say we support it, but I think that they maybe something got lost in translation about process. Because they approve the pre-app, then you guys go back, gather more information and put that application together. As part of that, you usually would get a letter of support from the selectmen, but after we've seen a more comprehensive application.
So maybe the question is that our committee has to get approval from you to go and
to
do
move
this.
forward with this. Mr. Hickey wanted that.
Well, I only wanted to add, Mr. Chairman, that back in early 2017, when I was not part of the Board of Selectmen, that the Board of Selectmen voted to support planning for a municipal park up at that area. I do not support that. I would support it if the townspeople supported it, but as Mr. Hayes brought up earlier, if the townspeople support selling the property, that's what I support. And I've said this in the past, that we don't even agree in my own house what should be done with that property. But I can't support this
But she's not saying to make a park, though. This is just a study, like, if you read what they're saying, they want to stake out boundaries. Whatever they do with it, they're gonna need to do this. They're gonna have to stake out boundaries, they're gonna have to look at infrastructure, basically get a lay of the land, is what, yeah.
Look, I don't see any harm. I understand what you're saying, Laura, and you know better than I do on this. First of all, the form still has Laura Fitzgerald at large chairperson and a number of other people.
Some things are hard to
I know.
It's gotta be fixed, but that's not you.
Note to the file.
That's to the CPC. We'll talk to Barbarina on that, right? But, I mean, it says pre-application, so we can give you a general consensus as to where you're going. I think you're right,
But I want, Mr. Hickey is feeling as though, he's feeling like this is saying definitively that a park is what's gonna be done.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting that from this at all. I'm getting that you guys are doing like a lay of the land kind of study. I do see that the Conservation Commission, it has funded a draft park plan, but that's with conservation money. And that's if you move in that direction, you're using the conservation money to do that plan. You're asking CPA money, you're asking for, again, just general lay of the land, infrastructure, planting, identification, and then boundaries, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And since it's a pre-application, even if we voted yes to approve it, it's still a pre-application. They have to go through the formal application.
They have to kick the tires.
So-
But even if you sold, like what Mr. Hickey said, and Mr. Hayes, that you possibly sold it, you'd still have to do these bounds and identify, and
Yes.
it's all preliminary stuff you're gonna have to do no matter what you do with the property.
Yep.
So this is just, preliminary stuff. This is
Okay,
nothing
so it's too early
concrete.
for Mary Ann to be in front of us right now.
That's correct.
I-
But she's only the messenger.
Well, I think
She's only
it
the
is
messenger.
that the Plymouth, as a committee for Plymouth County Hospital, we need to say, can the committee go ahead and do this application? Maybe that way, I was getting the wrong question.
I
Plus
think
the updates
I think
are good, too.
the purpose here is, again, to make sure the lines of communication are strong, and that the Board of Selectmen, who will make the ultimate decisions on most of this stuff, is aware of the direction in which this committee is going. And I think she's just seeking,
The lines of communication?
Yeah, well, no, I think,
I'm all for that.
I think she's just looking for some sort of nod of approval that, to move in this direction.
Support.
No, I
We don't want to do, we want to make sure.
Our committee's out there at your behest, we need to be.
I mean, we don't want anything done.
You're not going AWOL on us.
Yeah.
You're on
We've already planned everything, it's all done.
So I mean, I think
Yeah.
this is great, and then
Yeah,
if,
my
as
brain is
Dawn
not
says, you guys are doing that article,
and I like
or
it
whatever you're
cold.
calling it, I don't know, the
Or working with
non-article.
Mike and Mary on it.
Yeah.
I think you turned it up, Mary. I think you turned up the air conditioning, which is okay, because that'll keep us all moving along. Okay,
Well,
so,
again, I think a lot of the problems that we encounter in municipal government is people, boards, committees doing things in a vacuum, and that's exactly what we're trying not to do.
I agree.
Okay.
No, you're right, we've got to have,
Yeah,
we've got to have
exactly.
the connectivity between
Exactly.
CPC, Plymouth County Hospital Reuse, and Selectmen, so we all know what's going on.
Yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to.
I moved.
You already made the
Yeah.
motion?
No,
What
he
was it?
seconded it, though.
Because what
I
was
was
the?
taking
To
it out there.
support conceptually the committee working with the CPC for funding for a lay of the land assessment.
Second.
On their pre-application, absolutely. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
I think you're going in the right direction now.
Okay.
Yeah,
And do we
absolutely.
need to, if there's a warrant, that's not up to our committee, that's up to, okay.
Yeah.
Don said, you said you're going to work with Mary and Mike to.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
to get an article in there.
And we'll have a 90-minute presentation during the town meeting.
Yeah, right. Nice try.
No, and if you go for if the CPC thing moves forward, then CPC will put that in they'll be the ones presenting the town, yeah.
We're gonna have your article on Tuesday.
Marion, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it for the update.
Thank you.
I'm going up to the war.
Okay,
You
we
can
all,
blame Mary for that, by the way.
I'm not taking responsibility today. I didn't do it today.
we've got,
No, I turned the
two more
phone off.
discussions.
Should be used.
Eric
Somebody
Dresser.
from the other
And then we've got, and then we'll take up with the,
they play with the
Recreation
box.
Board.
Yeah, they use the box.
Eric is from the Whitman Hanson Community Access Committee and Chairman, is that right? And you're the director?
Yeah, I'm the executive director at Whitman Hanson Community Access. Basically, I was talking with Jim and Mike a couple of weeks ago, and they thought they might like a little update. I'm the new executive director at WHCA. I've been there since January 3rd, so about 8.5 months now. And there's been a real lot to update you on, a lot of stuff that's happened. Good stuff, improvements. As I come in and take the place of Steve Roy, who was the executive director there for more than a decade. Right in the door, I brought with me my experience. Hanson and Whitman are my 5th and 6th communities I've served in a similar role in. So I brought that right in the door with me, and we started looking at some of the changes that we could make to optimize the way that we do what we're doing. But I definitely want to recognize also the board of directors at WHCA who are volunteers, and the staff while I was gone and there was no director after Steve's passing in May and before my start date in January. They did a wonderful job providing continuity of everything, like covering these meetings, events in the community, all sorts of things like that. Days after Steve's death, they covered graduation for the high school 2 years ago. Really, they did a tremendous job. So I just want to point that out and thank them for the work they did. So a little bit of background about cable access, why we are, what we are. Essentially why we exist, and you all probably know this, but for our viewers, I'll just explain that essentially we exist because when you all negotiate with the cable providers to come into town and to utilize the poles to connect between our houses, our businesses, and our institutional buildings such as this one, you're able to negotiate and to get back some revenue, or some of the cable revenue comes back. In the case of Hanson, it's 5% through 2018 of their cable-related revenue comes back to fund an opportunity for folks in the community to plug in and have their own access to the cable system, giving them a voice, and this sort of transparency like we see with this meeting here. So that's kind of how we exist, is with those cable dollars. They're private through the cable companies, and that allows us to do what we do on an operating and capital basis each year. So we were established as a separate 501c3 back in about 2005 in order to insulate the town of Hanson and Whitman from any of the liabilities that might arise from anybody who can go and do a show about whatever they want. It's not always something you want to have the liability for. So we're well insured for that, and that's what we do. So as being a 501c3, there's various requirements that we have to do each year to maintain that standing and things like that. And we work diligently to stay current on all of that. Some of the things are, we have to do an annual Form PC for charitable nonprofits. We have to do an annual audit. We have to file with the Secretary of State, as well with our directors and things like that. So we have, we've talked about in past meetings some of the audits and things like that that we have to get up to speed. And so we're working diligently on that. We're probably, I'm told from a call today, days away from completion with our 2015 audit. So that will be filed and complete and up to speed. 2016, we've been issued an extension on, and so that will be done before the extension, and 2017 will be a complete non-issue. Everything will be on time with that as expected.
Excuse me, Eric or Arlene, through you, Mr. Chair, did we, was there a discussion that we would get a copy of that audit, or?
Every year.
Okay, I thought that was part of the agreement.
Duplicate,
Okay.
that comes over here.
Okay.
We've not yet signed the agreement, but we will after the main
Yeah.
audit starts.
Yeah, so as part of this is all done by, I'm actually glad you brought that up because I didn't have it in my notes, but it's a third-party CPA firm that does this audit and this review. So it comes to the town and back to us, and we make sure, that way there's, again, transparency and everything is as it's supposed to be.
Great, thank you.
So there was one thing to mention that Jim brought to my attention. There was a small clerical error on our 501c3 exemption certificate that named Steve Roy. That's also in the works to being corrected. So everything should be all buttoned up, certainly by the new year, perhaps even sooner.
Eric, one of the things I would like to mention, that I don't know if you plan to, but the fact that you were taking a complete inventory of the system, and that's pretty intense. You're actually taking the serial numbers of these items and going through a very detailed inventory system, and that's a lot of work. I know that's a great deal of work, and again, kudos to you for doing that.
Well, thank you. We did a new hire back in April, and we hired a studio production technician, and so that was his first order of business. It was probably 2 or 3 weeks of his full-time job to go around and identify and put hands on all the equipment and correlate that back to past inventories, which, quite frankly, we can't always ask the person who prepared those.
Right.
He's not available to be questioned and asked about some of those things. So it's been a thorough job, and we've been happy going through it. And even as we're working now on the 2015 audit, that's one of the things that the CPA has asked for, is sort of to correlate with their depreciation schedule. Sure. I'm happy to report that we were able to give them a report that we touched 100% or accounted for 100% of the items that were on there.
That's great.
And that's something that comes to this board too.
Correct. In addition to that inventory, we've done a whole bunch of improvements. I hope you've had a chance to cruise by our website and see that. It's had a whole refresh in terms of its look. We also did organizational email addresses, so everybody has an @whcatv.org email address. We've got organizational addresses like board @ or director @ or operations, production, et cetera, so that we can sort of filter a correspondence where it needs to go so that we can react quickly and efficiently to what needs to be done. We've done new phones so that we've made that experience better. So we just really worked on our communications. That was one of my first things in the door. In addition to that, we've done a number of studio and facility improvements. We've done a whole bunch of electrical work, both for functionality and to go green. We've done building structure, which is brickwork, roof work, painting, et cetera, just beautification and protecting the investment. We've done security, including new locks, alarms, and security cameras. We've done front lobby and reception area to optimize it for aesthetics, but also for usability. As I said, we did add some staff, so we had to find a way to work for them. We also had to optimize their workstations and then upgrade some of our video editing computers so that they're with the times as well. So we've been going through and doing all that. And right now we're tackling what we're calling a tech core project, which is essentially making sure that we've got a hub, much like you'd have here, sort of an IT heart or brain of the operations, that everything kind of goes through. What we're doing with that is paving the way to a whole playback upgrade. So that we're going to have a system that'll be a lot more dynamic, a lot more with the times and modern, and it will be accommodating to HD at such time as that becomes available to us. So we're working on that. We're additionally also looking to purchase that playback, and we're zeroing in on that, on what that solution will be. And we're looking to continue to expand our community events happening in and around the studio, and then kind of our homegrown programming. To that end, we've extended our sports coverage, we've expanded school event coverage, we've got this new on-location production that we're doing. We just went down to the Boulevard in well, Bob left, he interviewed me as one of the segments there in Whitman, and we're going to actually, I think we just reached out today and try to set up a date to film here in Hanson as well.
Was Kevin part of that too? I think he was, wasn't he?
Yep,
Kevin
pretty much the whole crew. Carol was
Carol
on vacation at the time, but everybody else, it was all hands on deck. It was a great event, beautiful day for it. We're also looking to do orientation events, probably on a monthly basis, and an open house, let people walk through and see these exciting changes that we're doing. In addition to that, I know in a past meeting you were talking about the availability of meetings like this long-term. We talked about that briefly just when we were chatting, but I've also been kicking the conversation off into how we can integrate with a more long-time archival system like archive.org. There's no reason to believe that YouTube isn't a long-term archival solution, but it is a private corporation after all, so we're kind of hedging our bet with archive.org, which is more akin to a library. So we're doing that.
So people will be able to call up meetings that were recorded previously
searchable
at any time that they wish to, right? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. We're also going to be in the future creating what, for the time being, we're calling an edit lab, which will further empower community members to come in. They can already shoot their own stuff. They'll be able to edit it too. And we're working on our truck. Not only will we be redoing the branding with a nice graphic wrap that says who we are, that we're there filming this and where you can watch, but we're also looking at how we can upgrade that to provide digital recordings to expedite turnaround times on some of the productions like you've seen here. I don't know if you've noticed the turnaround times on some of the productions have sped up, and that's facilitated by that type of improvement. In closing, we want people to know that each year, as I mentioned, we do that third-party, audit to have everything looked at. So that should all be very visible for people. We do the filings. Those have to get filed with the state, either with the Secretary of State or with the Attorney General. And we've actually linked to those from the About Us page of our website, so you'll actually be able to drill right into those, because some people, I guess, have had some difficulty finding those. You should be able to drill right into them right from our website. Let's see. We'll give verbal updates such as this periodically, of course, as well. And of course, we always welcome people to come into our studio and check it out. We just ask that you call first. We'd be happy to walk people through. And after all, our mission is to inform, enlighten, entertain cable television viewers in Whitman and Hanson through the provision of training in television production, production facilities, and cablecast time to volunteers and producers. So we hope that folks will take advantage of this opportunity, come in, to at least take a look, maybe get involved. There's lots of great stories to tell and publicity to bring to your cause or organization or whatever that might be, and we're happy to help.
And I know Arlene's been, I think Hanson's got its share, a good share. We -1 from the town of Hanson for that board, but we need more Whitman members, is that correct?
So we're working on that too, and part of that is, squaring away some of the filings and things like that simultaneously, so that whoever comes on to a really organized ship. I think you can see by the other projects that we've been doing that organization and sort of optimizing the way that we do our operations has been a big priority, and so as we look to our board structure and things like that, we'll be looking to the same types of practices.
It's really impressive.
Eric, it's very impressive, and I know that working with Mike McHugh too, we've got the equipment to do the additional meetings.
I meant to mention that,
That's a great thing. So people will be able to see Conservation Commission, the other meetings that Sharon and Rich were always recording at their time, but now it's being done by those chairs.
And so when we went out and built that, I didn't just go to the store. We didn't just go to Best Buy and buy a camera. I actually reached out to B&H Photo Video. It's kind of a nationwide, really big hub for things like that. And I actually went on to chat with a representative, and I explained the exact scenario where we want to have professional-looking video shot by people who really have no background in this area. And so I think that's what you'll find with this equipment, and we're still working to make sure that the instruction manuals that we leave behind, we just do a little trifold brochure that we try to get everything that they need there, but keep it simple yet effective for them.
Perfect. And we'll be able to sell the VHS stuff from the water department as an antique.
Oh, yeah.
All right?
That's going to be
still in the
property.
box, is that right?
It's in the case.
No? It's still in the box.
The VHS camera that we sent.
VHS camera?
Well, it still works.
It works.
We just can't buy any film for it.
We just
Can't buy any tapes.
Donnie was looking to buy tapes.
I know, that's,
I actually, I don't want to mention it, but I saw them at Benny's the other day.
Did you?
Yeah, I stopped and said,
buy them all.
Benny's, yeah.
Denny's?
Benny's.
Benny's, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I'll have to go down there and get some.
But I can't thank you enough, that's a
We got a
lot.
new camera anyway.
And the audit, the formal audit, will be done sometime August, are we expecting, or September? Was it end of August?
I called her this afternoon, and she said that I should be hearing back the end of next week with the final questions, by the end of next week with the final questions, and then I said, from there to the finish line,
Yeah.
how long? And she said, that's pretty much it, it's just a matter of writing it up
That's
from that
terrific.
point, and it's all done.
Once we get that, I think we'll be able to take a review of it and then look at the contract, this selectman, this board. We have that on our to-do list. And then we'll be able to hopefully review the contract, bring you guys back, and sign it, move forward. And I think Whitman Board of Selectmen are waiting for that as well, right?
That's correct. Hanson to figure it out first. Do anything.
Let us do the work, huh? Okay. That's okay, I don't blame them, yeah. But any questions for Eric, from anybody?
No, just, I'd just like to thank you, and like you said, the guys that kind of kept things going before
Absolutely.
you ever came on
Yeah.
board, and the people on the committee, because it's, a thankless job, so.
Yeah.
I know, Eileen, you were paying the bills. I know.
was.
You
She
were,
was.
so that's terrific, so. You keep us in the green, thank you.
As I mentioned, we did redo all of our email addresses. Mine is director@whcatv.org. Anybody that needs to reach out, wants to reach out, ask any questions, I welcome them to do so.
That's terrific.
And the offices look great. When I was in there a couple
still-
weeks
we're
ago,
still
it was
doing
very
more.
impressive. It looked
Yeah.
really super
Thank you.
professional.
Thank
Yeah.
Of course, your being here, talking to us in the public, is one of the requirements that we talked about in that matrix of our contract, which was to come on a quarterly basis and just give us an update as you have done. So I think we were behind maybe, or this will qualify for September, we'll say, whatever,
Okay.
But I thank you very much for
Yeah,
attending.
absolutely.
And any other further questions or comments, no? Look forward to having you come back
All
next
right,
quarter.
thank you very much.
Thank you, guys, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Very much. Okay, so that does the update from the Whitman Hanson Community Cable. We have next, I think you folks are here for the, I'm assuming for the Recreation Commission Review and Approve Rates? Is that it, or what are you specifically here for, can I ask?
Because we're not following the
So I can
agenda.
get you guys out of here? Yeah, no, I mean,
The agenda's gone.
it's not new business. Is this on the
Part-time
part-time
facilities.
facilities director? But that's for the entire town, that wasn't just specific to the, is that what you're here for, or you're here for a specific?
For rates.
For the rates, okay, why don't we do that, that way they can choose, if you want to stay, you're welcome to stay, I encourage you to do so.
Warm it up, you can
Is that item 5CA?
Item 5, yes. So under item 5 on your agendas, you have the Camp Quaney wedding rates. And I think, Emery, were you going to speak to these, or no?
Well, what happened was, we had a list of rates that we were going off of.
Okay.
And they were approved and adopted by the Board of Selectmen on August 12, 2014.
Right.
Somebody called and brought our eyes to the verbiage 3/4 of the way down that says non-wedding functions may book 6 months prior during peak season.
Oh, I see, that's under item 5A on your iPads, guys. This is the old one where it says, and if you look down, it says non-wedding functions may book 6 months prior during peak season. Is that correct? During May 1st through October 31st.
Right.
And that's the change?
So we changed it after last night's meeting and a long discussion to the new page that reads, non-wedding functions will be allowed to book events 10 months prior to function during peak seasons.
Okay.
I have a question for you. It does relate to this, but not specifically to that change. Are we really requiring, if I book for a shower that's $400, do I really have to pay $1,000 for a security deposit?
Oh, yeah.
And do we find that to be prohibitive for anybody other than weddings to be renting, for the small, are you still getting people renting for those smaller,
So what they do, Laura, is they give us a check and that check gets held. Doesn't get cashed.
Okay, so that's not a real security deposit in the sense that we've cashed it. I mean, somebody could bounce the check, if you will, and,
Right.
okay.
But
Yeah.
I will tell you, Laura, from my experience with this, and I think Mr. Hickey would understand where I'm coming from in this, is that it was worth having the extra, that security deposit, that $1,000 on any events that go on up there, right?
I'm sure that's true, but what I'm hearing is that we've got the policy, but we really aren't getting any money from them, because she's saying we're not cashing the check, we're just holding the check.
But you only cash a check if there's damage.
Exactly.
Yeah, if there's no damage, you're gonna give it back to them.
Okay.
So it's like going to a hotel and you give them security with your credit
Yeah,
card.
but you're giving them your credit card. A check is very easy to stop.
Yeah, but nobody bounces checks.
Okay, all right. I guess I'm just jaded.
I can't remember the last time I got a bounce check, that's really.
Anne Marie, is there a security deposit on a cabin rental?
Well, you could.
No.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Might want to consider it, maybe, I don't know, think about it, whatever. Is that what your point is?
No, my point is, no, that's good.
Okay.
Someone's gonna rent a cabin for $40, they're not gonna pay,
No, yeah.
So,
I'm not saying 1,000, but maybe we could put it for a couple of hundred, I don't know. Might be worth it. If you go up there and they're ripping off the screens and tearing the place apart.
That's a little tough, 40.
Do we have lines of people waiting to?
Those aren't people that are renting them,
Yeah.
those are people that are coming up in the middle of the
Yeah.
night.
In the middle of the night doing it?
Right,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Is there any other changes to this, or is that it?
That's the only change.
Okay, I move that I make a motion that we move to accept the change that non-wedding functions will be allowed to book events 10 months prior to the function during peak season as recommended to us by the Recreation Commission.
Second.
We'll give it that to Donnie, okay? Because he's more wise. All right, Don?
Much wiser.
Much more wiser.
yeah.
All right. Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion of points. So, all those in favor?
Aye.
5-0. Thank you very much. So we have accepted we have reviewed and approved the rates. All the other rates were the same, by the way, for anybody else who's out there. The next we have is, do we want to move to a request, or do we want to continue with discussions? It's at 9 o'clock now, so why don't we move to discussion regarding the part-time facilities director? Would you guys be okay? Well, actually, you know what to do? Let's move let's move back to the agenda on item 2. Discussion regarding distribution of the various committee meeting minutes. Laura, would you like to speak on
Okay,
this?
yeah, I mean, I'll just make it brief. I just would like to find a way, Mike, and I don't know how to do this. I really don't want to kill an ant with a cannon here. I don't want to, like, over-engineer this at all. But I'd just like to find a way without having to go in to each of the various tabs on the town website. Just find out what the committees are, what they're up to. Is there a way for us to get copied on their minutes? Is there a way for us to get copied on their agendas? I'd just like to kind of know what's going on with the other committees and boards, et cetera, so that, if they need our support or if there's something we should be concerned about. I know you'd bring it to our attention, but there might be something that piques our attention that we would, be interested in partnering with them with. Yeah, I just wondering how can we keep up to date with what the other guys are doing. Again, this is not to over-engineer, it is not to step on anybody's feet. I want those committees and boards to feel very empowered to do what they are supposed to be doing. I just kind of want to be informed.
Laura, if you go on the front page of the website, on the left-hand side,
Yeah.
there's a subscribe to button. If you click on that, you will get a drop-down with all the committees.
Okay.
You can click on any agenda, any meeting minutes.
I can just subscribe to all
You
of
can,
them?
whatever you want to subscribe to, you will get them as soon as they're posted.
Can she
So, and I'm
subscribe
glad-
twice?
And I'm glad you brought up, because a lot of people don't realize this, and I tell them when they call looking for something. And when you brought it up, I went through the website, and I saw that there were a couple of committees that weren't in there, because when the site was set up, each one of the departments need to go in and click a box within their page to allow it to be subscribed to. So I went through most of the site when Mike was on vacation last week, and I got as many committees up as possible.
Okay.
One of the committees I know you're probably interested in is the Highway Building Committee. I don't have a committee page for them, but I put all their minutes up on the highway page.
Awesome. Okay,
So, but
great.
all you need to do is just go into that subscribe button on the front page of the website, and it'll give you, like I said, a whole list of everybody who has minutes, agendas, news and announcements.
Yes. Great.
So that's, the news and announcements aren't just for the front page, you can do just that, and you can get into, you know, if we post anything on the Selectmen's page, or Conservation and the Board of Health have got all they're always putting notices up on their pages. It may not be on the front page of the website, but it may be on their page, so you can subscribe to that. So you can be inundated with little emails saying that something's been posted.
I be careful what I wish for. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I actually posted for, and I get like water, main alerts.
Yeah,
from the town.
I get the news and updates, but I didn't know I could go in and do the minutes for.
That's what we liked
Yeah.
about this new format of
Yeah.
the website. You could do that.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mary.
But I think it's good too, and we should also point out too, what your point is that if any of the various committees wish to meet with us, they're always welcome to. Right?
Well, and that was something that I know we've tossed around a little bit, is, again, in the spirit of opening up those lines of communication with us and other committees, is would love to have people come and talk to us periodically, just like we had Whitman Hanson Cable, periodically the fire chief, the police chief, but would love to hear from the other committees. Not so much recreation, we've heard too much from you guys lately, but I'm just kidding. But, but you know, like Phil Clemens came and gave us an update. Maybe we could get a schedule of people, like kind of a round robin, little 15-minute update at a meeting, Mike, I don't know.
Yeah, and we were sort of doing that
prior
to your and Jim's joining the board, and it's our intention to move forward with that. Sometimes, you know, during the summer months, things tend to slow down in terms of availability of people, but it is our intention to continue to go forward with asking, probably on a monthly basis, of various boards, committees, departments to come in and have those discussions. Again, 15 minutes, update the board and obviously the viewers on what that particular committee may be working on.
Okay, that sounds great.
I think it's totally appropriate.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good, because we still do that with fire, police, and highway. We should get the other committees in here too. All right, good discussion. Next item on our agenda is the discussion regarding the part-time facilities director. Earlier tonight, under the wage and personnel, it was also recorded, we had talked about the facilities director there. Do I use the right word? Was it director? Manager, that's it. Specifically for Camp Kewanee, because there's a number of items that need to be worked on and certainly prioritized, so that makes sense. This particular topic is a part-time facilities director that we wanted to open a discussion with for the town. So for town-owned buildings, this would be the town hall, senior center, library, police station, fire station, and any other public buildings that we may hold, I believe, right? We've got others on Main Street that we have.
Thomas Mill.
Yeah, Thomas Mill.
Food pantry, Body House.
Mike, did you want to discuss more?
Well, what I would basically do is just kind of touch upon what we talked about earlier when you were sitting as the Wage and Personnel Board, that I think it makes sense, and I think the board was in general consensus, that we move forward in putting something together to put somebody in place to take care of these immediate needs that we are seeing up at camp, and then to move forward and try to morph that, whether that be the same person, whether that be a different person. As we mentioned previously in the other sort of meeting, we really have to do some thinking about the right way to line something like that up. But I think we really move in the future, and perhaps even in October, as I mentioned, to take this position and make it a full-time position, so that it would oversee, you know, a good chunk of going forward what would still probably need to be done at the camp, but encompass all of those facilities that you just mentioned, Mr. Chairman.
So, Mike, are you saying that we may have to put something together for an article of some kind in front of town meeting? On this
We would
position?
have to.
Right?
Well, I don't think that we would be in a position to hire a part-time facility director if that also encompasses Camp Kewanee. I think that it would just be too much to try to get done in a part-time position. So we start out with what we have right now, that we don't need to go to town meeting with, that we can move forward on tomorrow if we wanted to.
Right.
But again, the long-term goal is, I think it should be, to bring somebody in full-time so they could oversee not only what needs to get done up there, but also oversee all the facilities here in town.
And that's a good point. We should state that the facilities manager is an established position within under the Recreation Board, so.
And it's been there for a while.
Yeah, it's on wage and personnel, so.
I like that idea, Mike, and I like the idea, I know you're saying, oh, should we get 2 people or 1 people? I'd like to try to head towards, in the direction of the 1 person, because I just think scales of economy, you know, once you've got somebody who knows who to use for electrical and plumbing, and they know the fire drill and construction, like, you'd almost be duplicative if you have 2 people.
Yes, I
so,
agree.
You know.
And I may have misspoken. I don't have the intention of proposing that we have 2 different people and 2 different part-time jobs.
Right.
I think what I was trying to say is, you know, the part-time person in the end may not be the person that would accept the full-time position. So
Okay.
that's what I meant by
Yep.
a different person or additional person.
Yep.
And we've got to watch out for those.
And we've got to figure out the
Issues,
right way
yeah.
to really approach something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to approach this very carefully, and we got to think about it in
You gotta
advance, so.
talk to Todd, make sure, you know, you
Yep.
have the money for it, and talk about the job. I think that's something that can't be decided overnight. I think we gotta put some thought into that.
I agree, and the tricky
know.
part is we don't have the position approved, the full-time position, approved by town meeting, so while you're hiring that person, you can't really dangle a carrot and say, we're gonna have, because you really don't know, there's nothing certain.
Yes, you're right,
So-
you're right. There's a lot of things we need to think about moving forward.
But at least the camp can go ahead and post that
Yes.
position right away.
Right.
And get
Yeah.
them up and going.
Yep.
So I think it's something that we need to visit, but I don't know if we're ready to visit it right now.
But this, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, this is stuff that you and I had already discussed, Mike, and then with the earlier meeting that we had with the Rec Commission, it's quite possible that it's still on the books, and any possible perks that were on the books from before wouldn't have to be there now, so that it could still be pretty close to full-time position just at the camp, to get that position back to where it was.
Yep.
And that may be enticing enough for someone to take it. I don't know how we could do it as a town where you would have a different person, because who do we have now? No one.
Nobody.
No one. So it would be that person at the camp being, I guess, I don't know what the right word is, but lent out. If there was something going on at the mill that needed to be repaired,
I know yep.
who repairs that now? No one. It goes unrepaired. And that's why they're having the problems up at the camp.
And there are problems not to that magnitude, but there are problems that we have.
Yeah, I mean,
in
it
all
could be
our
as simple as
facilities.
nailing some, you know, some pieces of floor back down. We don't have anybody. So, I mean, you know, there's a lot we gotta look into,
Yes,
so, you know.
Okay, so I think the general consensus is, Mike, is that we would like to move forward with that position and obviously look,
At the
come
long
back to it
term,
in
yeah, the short and
the
long
future.
term.
All right, next on our agenda is the discussion with the Capital Improvement Committee matrix. On item 4 on your iPads, you should have in front of you the general bylaw, Hanson General Bylaw, Article 2-11, which is the Capital Improvement Committee, and it has 6 various sections that describe the committee's tasks, what they owe and should be reporting, and how about they should go about reporting on. We wanted to talk about this, I think, when Laura and I attended a Plymouth 400 Historical Commission,
Yeah,
Historical
Hanson
Commission
Historic
meeting.
Commission.
They had some great, Michelle, I think, I forget her last name. But anyways, we had talked a little bit with John Norton, on who's chair of the Capital Improvement Committee on this. And going back to even what Mr. Young has stated in the past, and with all due respect to Mr. Young, he was very good about making sure that we should probably move in the direction of making sure that this bylaw is either adhered to or changed, if it needs to be
Right.
changed. And it made sense at the time to everyone, and it was conveyed in that manner. One of the things that I looked at, if you guys look at this particular item, was section 6, and I talked a little bit about this with Mike. So the town of Hanson has an annual budget of what, Mike? Let me just round it, at $24 million, is that correct?
23, yeah.
23 million, let's say. So The proposed annual budget shall include an appropriation of not less than 1% of the town's operating budget to fund the capital plan. And I don't think we've been doing that at all since 2009. I'm pretty sure that we've not been.
What,
Is that
what we
correct?
have, what we have done in the past is, just because it's not on the plan, some projects we have done, we have usually met that 1%.
Okay.
Because it's a bigger item, school items, you know, the capital budget would be 1% of the overall budget, but it may not include, because we did a bigger project, you know, we bought a truck,
Okay.
you know, for $100,000. It's not on the capital improvement little matrix that we do within the town meeting,
Yep.
but it's a separate article.
So you're saying that we did spend
So
it-
we did put that amount out there, but it may not necessarily be the little items that you think we should be doing. We aren't putting enough money into capital improvement. That's why they went with this type of model, by putting the 1%, and we need to do something annually. It would be proposed, we would figure out how much we can put into capital improvement, but this is back in 2009, we were up against it for a period of time. We proposed it, we want to do these capital items, but at the time, we didn't have the money to do it, so they didn't get funded the first couple of years after this bylaw was adjusted. More recently, we have been able to. We had $1.8 million for the Plymouth County Hospital.
Right.
You know, that is included it's a capital item.
Right.
It's not part of the capital warrant article we may have had when we had like 6 or 7 different items in there.
Yeah.
But we were able to meet the 1% by these much bigger items.
Numbers,
When
okay.
we did the roof at the Indian Head School. That was a $900,000 project. That money, although it wasn't in the article, it was its own separate article, that money goes towards the cost, the 1%
Okay.
benchmark.
I think that's good insight, and I also think the key is the proposed annual
Proposed
budget.
annual budget.
Doesn't mean
we
you've got
have to
to,
put
like,
the
you're
money in.
proposing to fund it, but we really can't control what town meeting votes to fund.
Exactly.
So-
As long as it's considered,
Yeah.
when we put the budget together, and Todd's done a really good job of, you know, these are the things that would go to meet the bylaw requirement of proposing it. And a lot of times, like I said, the last few years, we've been able to meet that 1%, because Todd's always cognizant of what the
Yeah, I didn't know
bylaw
that, the other stuff
requires.
counts towards the 1%.
Well, and that's
That's-
it. So,
That
to
is-
that
yeah.
point though, Mary, if, maybe what we're asking, I think here, is our capital improvement committee to maybe keep a record of, so for example, you'd want to say for fiscal year 2016, right? Under this section, 1% was met through this, and this.
Correct.
Right, so that we have a record of it being followed, actually being done in the manner of what you're saying.
See, and what happens with the capital plan is it goes forward.
Right.
It's not looking back. You can see when we go to town meeting and we do the budget,
Yeah.
we can see the previous 2 years, what we did.
we did.
They don't really do that in the capital.
Exactly.
Because capital's only concerned about the 6 years out. We're gonna put these things on the capital improvement matrix because people ask them. And previously, when Rich LaCamera was here, he said, you have stuff that has been sitting around for 15 years. You need to wipe that stuff off and start this over and do it again.
And that was part of the discussion we had with Mr. Norton.
Right.
Was we just said, look, could you take a fresh look at this so that it's a more meaningful document, so that it doesn't feel like when you're at town meeting, like, holy moly, we've got, you know,
$4
$1 billion
million
worth of
stuff.
things that have to get
Yeah.
done this year, which is how it looks a lot of times. And again, this is not, we're not disparaging anybody. We know that it's gotten to the point for a variety of different reasons. And at this point, we just want to move forward and have something that's useful. So I think Mr. Norton said he would reach out to Mike, which I believe he already did.
Yes.
And have a dialogue with Todd and you and FinCom about, and then how to make this more meaningful. And then one of the things that Jim suggested, which I thought was a great suggestion, was that
Go back to
once
the
that matrix is put together, and the town warrant articles are submitted, update the matrix to reflect what is really moving forward and what isn't, instead of keeping it all out there.
Because the capital improvement committee is doing what the people are asked, that the committees are required to submit a plan.
Right.
And the capital improvement committee is showing you what people have submitted to us
Right.
in this matrix. This is what people have asked us for. They want to have it this year.
Right.
And then when they bring their warrant articles, the projects that they're actually prioritizing, that's what we're really voting
Right.
on.
Agreed.
Capital improvement committee is saying, look, this is what people are asking me for.
Yeah.
This is what we're recommending to be, that's
Done
all we
in
can
that
afford.
fiscal year.
These are the
Yeah.
items we can afford.
So in
we
the
just
past,
want
when it
some-
didn't get funded, it just stayed there?
It would stay, it would just
And
move
that's
to the
why
next
it
year.
kept-
People would just move it over and move it over, and, you know, like the sidewalks have been under the selectmen's plan.
Yep.
You know, since I got here. They're, seriously, it's always been there. It's something they want to do, it's always out there, but we just don't have the money to do a lot of these things, and a lot of them are wish list items.
The good news is it's moved into fiscal year 19, Mary, see? Okay?
Well, because I was listening to Rich, he told me to get that off there, I moved it.
Well, to your point, though, under the regional schools, under the schools, you know, a lot of these things, so if you go to item 4A on your agendas, you'll see the matrix out there, okay? So if you go about, if you go under the turf field, see where it says roadway repairs underneath turf field?
Yes,
Those were
2,200
put
square
off
feet.
because Whitman didn't have enough money at the time.
Yeah.
So what my point is that these items, and Laura made a great point, is what we gotta do is, if we can somehow reconcile this list to what's in the, to what's on the warrant for articles, it'll tell us what we are going to be spending in that fiscal year, and what we're not, more importantly, and what should be moved out.
Correct, but the problem that they
have-
create this matrix
Yeah.
after, when we send out the notice that the budgets have to be submitted, you have to put your plan in. The capital improvement committee puts this matrix together based on what people give them. They aren't making the decisions yet, they're just showing everybody, this is what people are asking for. That's what they think they need this year.
Right.
Once I think they need to decide what's gonna be prioritized, what's actually gonna be on the warrant, they may wanna update
That's what
this.
we're
And
asking.
the
That's what-
requested for, what they could do is have a requested for in fiscal
Yep.
18.
Yes.
This is what was requested. Here's a column that this is all we're funding.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
You know,
what we're looking
and-
for.
And then the schools will pull their articles late, saying, oh, we don't have enough money, so there's a lot of, you know, jogging around, but the townspeople are required, as under the bylaw, to approve the matrix. So
I
it's a
understand.
changing thing right up until town meeting.
And that's the difference, Mary, is that when we're talking about a list versus an actual matrix of when we intend to spend.
Right.
And fix things. And that's the difference, I think, where it's gotten kind of confused and
Yeah.
meshed together. But the point is if you look under fiscal year, 18, you'll see, $11 million, right?
Right.
We don't want or $12 million. We know we're not gonna go that far.
Correct.
Right, for that fiscal year. So, maybe what it is it's a better way for us, Mike, if, when we reach out to John on this, to figure out, what's actually on the list versus what's actually going to be truly spent for and when. And I understand from their perspective, if they get a list from somebody saying, here, these are our items, and they don't put what year they intend to spend them for, that's a problem. I'd kick that back to them and say, hey.
No, but I think that's what they get from these departments. The departments are the ones who tell them when they want to put it on.
Yeah, but do they say what fiscal year they intend to spend it
Yes,
in?
when the,
I'm not sure I saw that from the school in all the cases.
I think there's
From
comes
Swan?
through, I think their plan comes through similar to this. These are the years we expect to be doing these, and right now, these are things we need to do in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
It's not gonna happen, but these are what we're asking for.
I think one of the issues is that, and I think everybody's kind of talking about it, that it just seems like everything is front-loaded.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yep.
I think there has to be a more realistic, and it's not necessarily on the part of the capital improvements committee, but it's on the part of our departments. To be
Right.
more realistic in trying to space these out. And that's what we're looking at here is a plan. It's supposed to be a 5 or a 6 year plan.
Yep.
And it really, I think, is, and I don't mean this in the wrong way, but in a sense almost disingenuous, for us to just load everything in 18,
Right.
knowing that we're not going to get everything in 18. So I think maybe the process has to change a little in terms of, how we produce this document.
And Mary, you're absolutely right, because I'm looking here, and if you look at the fire department, they've got it allocated out for 5 years,
Yep.
right?
There are a few
Highway
that have done
department.
that.
Mr. Chairman, though, what about the regional school?
I just
Turf?
said the schools don't.
Yeah, but the turf field,
Yes,
that worked out perfectly, right?
yes, it did. Which is,
So-
that's what I'm saying, is that should be there.
So that will-
But the items underneath it, the roadway repairs, should not be.
Right.
Okay, neither should the installed industrial ceiling fans. They should not be.
There was a bunch of stuff they pulled.
They pulled
Yeah.
these items for
Yeah.
fiscal year 18.
Right, but they pull them just before town meeting,
I
after
hear
they've
you.
already
I
created
gotcha. I know.
already created this. So what they could do is go back
Yeah.
and adjust it.
Yep.
But
'Cause it's
town
a-
meeting's voting what's presented at the time. So
Agreed.
this is the current matrix as town meeting voted. And it's important that we have this matrix in existence, because when it comes time to borrowing,
Yes.
the bond companies come and say,
Where's
what's
your
on your
list?
capital
Yeah.
improvement
Yeah.
matrix? And that's why we've run into trouble in the
Yeah.
past for a couple of different projects.
Yeah.
They weren't on the matrix for that particular year. Bond counsel says, it's not on there, you need to fix this.
So I think it's kind of a 1-2 punch. I think Mike's on to something. If we can work with the departments and, the committees to be, more forthcoming and realistic in planning, and not, because in reality, they know they're not gonna get everything in, that same year. And so just be realistic, like we are seeing some of them do, fire and highway and that type of stuff. And then, also if we can work with capital, improvement, to have them at some point delineate what's the wish list versus what they're actually gonna get.
And the other point is, all these other items under McQuon School will have to be rethought, right?
Right.
Reworked, and we're talking, there's $2 million right there
I mean,
on
they're
the
certainly not
electrical.
asking for them this year,
No, right.
so,
And I know they already did the repointing of the bricks, so some of these things they have done, but some of these things they needed to push out. And as I look at the matrix, I'm pretty sure it's the schools that look like that they've got to, we gotta go back on the schools and figure out at the time. So, I think Mike's got the general idea
Yeah.
on this, and I think we
and
need.
John's already reached out to
Yeah,
him.
yeah. So, the other thing I wanted to ask and point out was that Mary, they're supposed to, the committee shall prepare an annual report recommending capital improvements for the next fiscal year and the subsequent 5 years. The report shall be submitted to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee for their consideration, right? And we should be adhering to this, because it says that the Board of Selectmen shall submit its approved capital improvement program to any annual or special town meeting for adoption by the town, right? So we've got to try to stick with this, and I think what we're trying to say here is that if something needs to be changed, we should change it, but we should at least try to stick to what we need to this particular bylaw.
Well, I think the other thing that I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, is take another look at the bylaw, because it is a little confusing, as I think everybody's kind of touched upon. And I don't know, matter of fact, I can guarantee we won't have anything ready for October to make any changes to it. But I think maybe at the annual, after we take some time, we talk to legal counsel, we look at what other towns do. I'm a big proponent of plagiarism when it comes to these things.
Well, if the
And
work's
see
already
if we-
done, sure.
Yeah, exactly. And see if maybe there's a way that we can kind of encompass some of the things we're talking about right now, make it a little more user-friendly in a sense.
Yep.
Yeah, I think one of the problems that you find with bylaws, and not only this bylaw, but many bylaws, and not only in the town of Hanson, but every town that I've been in, is you go through a process, every couple of years or so, and you say, gee, maybe we should tweak this, maybe we should tweak that, and then it kind of starts drifting off in another direction, and they become confusing. So it's probably not only this particular bylaw, but many of them that we need to take a look at. And I know that, I believe that you had in the past a bylaw review committee. We might want to look at trying to breathe some new life into something like that.
Okay.
Again, it's very difficult these days to find people that have the time to commit to these sorts of things. But absent that, it's something that, Mary and I, along with town council, can kind of
Work
pick
out.
away at here and there, yeah.
The only thing that I would ask Mike for the October town meeting is that the front-load stuff that we talked about to be addressed.
Oh, that, yeah, that's,
Okay.
I don't see that as a
And of
big
course, the
challenge.
McQuon stuff
Yeah.
to be reconsidered
Yeah.
by the school, okay? if we solve those and all the school issues, I think the majority of the matrix itself
Yeah.
will be, is leveled out appropriately. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Unless there's anything further. I have a request from the Calvary Chapel Rockland, request for reduced security fee at Camp Kawani. I think that's under item 6 on your iPads.
Yep.
Okay, this was filed on August 8th, and this is for the North End rental. The description of the event is church family picnic at Camp Kawani. The date of the event is August 20th from 1 to 7 p.m. It states that on August 7th, the Recreation Commission and Board of Selectmen to approve rate of $500 for the North End cabin rentals and $150 security deposit, pending approval from the Board of Selectmen. So they have asked for a waiver reduction request of $500 with $150 security deposit. The name of the representative is Scott Greenberg. The address is Calvary Chapel at 175 Market Street, Rockland, Mass. I would entertain a motion to accept this waiver as stated.
Move.
Second.
Motion's been made, second. Further discussion. So the original amount, guys, is that 1,000? Am I wrong on that, Mike?
It's a non-profit.
Right, right? So they want to reduce
Oh,
from,
200, or,
I thought it was 1,000.
I thought it was 1,000, and they're going to a waiver of 500, down to 500. Am I mistaken? Just want to make sure I get it right. Pretty sure it
no,
was.
their rental is 500 for
The
the
security
facility. The
deposit.
security deposit, they're reducing the fee.
That's what we're
by
voting on.
Yeah, it's just a security deposit fee.
Okay, so it's just the, okay.
So they're paying the regular rate,
Yes.
Yeah, they're paying the regular rate for the facility, but they're just changing the
security deposit,
security
okay.
deposit.
All right, I apologize, because I'm misreading it. Does it say waiver reduction requested 500 with 150 security deposit?
And if they gave additional
Does.
information, I went over it with Lon at the
Okay.
time. I said, I looked at their rates, I said, they're paying the going rate. And she says, yeah, it's just the security deposit, which I think was 300, and it's like reducing it to 150.
Gotcha, okay, so that makes, that's, so this is basically a waiver of the $150 security deposit.
Yep.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions? All those in favor? Aye. 5-0, Mary, on that, thank you. Okay, that moves off of item 6. Next, we have the resignation and appointments. We have actually the appointments for the election workers, terms to expire August 31st, 2018. We have a great deal of names to mention, so I will say, as stated in the agenda. I'm looking
Second.
for a motion
So moved.
to appoint these folks.
There's one, Suzanne Davis is not there anymore.
Okay.
She's living in Hanover now.
She can still be an election worker from out of town.
She can?
She could be, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I'll tell her.
As long as she's not elected, right?
Right.
Right.
Yep. That's terrific. Okay, so we'll keep Suzanne Davis in there, if that's
So
okay.
moved and seconded.
Motion has been made and seconded. Further comments or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
5-0 on that, Mary, thank you. Next, we have we have appointments. On your agenda is 7A. We have a request for application for appointment for the Education Committee member, Ms. Sandra Bates at 1254 Main Street. If I'm reading it correctly, she's a retired registered nurse, part of the scoop program from the Children's Hospital in Boston, spoke to municipal schools and regional medical cancers, and it says except for Whitman Hanson, also Boston Latin. I would entertain a motion to appoint Ms. Sandra Bates to the Education Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
How many additional
Members?
openings do we have there, Mary?
That completes the group.
I thought it did, okay,
That's
great.
great. That's terrific. So we won't be reading that in the announcements anymore, right?
But
Okay.
speaking of which, CPC has openings and, oh, what the heck was the other department that we were talking about today that has openings? I'll email you, Mary, but
Okay.
can we just make sure we add that onto the ones that have got openings in the announcements?
In the announcements, sure.
Yeah.
The next item on our agenda is item 7A. It is the soon-to-be-changed name of McQuon School Transition Committee. We have an application for employment, and this is, we have actually two people. a Damian Kennedy at 178 McQuon Street, and a Caitlin Kennedy at 178 McQuon Street. In front of you, you should have their application with their requirements. I believe Damian, it says here, is employed at Arnold Worldwide in Boston.
Advertising firm.
Advertising, yeah, they would be available immediately. And we also have Ms. Caitlin Kennedy, working at Goosey Fibers, is it called?
It does appear to be the name.
Yeah.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to accept these two applications for employment to the McQuon School Transition Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Always appreciate them coming in. Thank you.
Now, Mary, does that fill the three, did I only have 3 citizens at large, and we appointed Wilbur Danner at one of the last meetings, or how many do we have?
I believe so. I'll go back and
Okay.
look and see what
All right.
what the composition was. So, but I think you're probably ready to go to set up a meeting.
So,
Okay.
next we have Mike on the Town Administrator's Report. We've already done the update on Roseward Drive. Do you want me to vote on Mr. Arsenal's resignation first before you speak to it?
Or you just want to speak to it more?
Or did you just want to speak to it first?
Yeah, I'd rather just speak to it rather quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not going yet.
We have received notification that our veteran agent has notified us of his intentions to retire at the end of the calendar year. Bob has been with us for a number of years, and I think everyone on this board, myself included, have the utmost respect for the work that he's done, the tireless work that he's done on the behalf of the veterans of the town of Hanson. Going forward, we can start taking a look at how we want to proceed in filling this position. Bob was kind enough and had mentioned his inclination to perhaps do this to me several weeks ago. And he had guaranteed me, he had promised me that he would give us an awful lot of lead time in terms of when his last day would be, so that we could make preparations moving forward, because it's obviously a very vital position that needs to be filled. How we wish to fill that going forward, it would be the question that I will start posing before the Board of Selectmen over the course of the next few months, whether or not we wish to reach out and solely hire an agent to represent the veterans of the town of Hanson, whether we want to look at perhaps joining a regional setup with an adjoining town, basically a district, or whether we want to look at sharing somebody, not necessarily in a district setup, but perhaps a part-time veterans agent spends 20 hours here in the town of Hanson, and maybe is spending 20 hours in a not necessarily contiguous town. If we were to form a district, those towns have to be contiguous. If we were just to almost like we were hiring, I don't want to say a contractor, but we wouldn't need to have the towns next to each other. So there are 2 or 3 different directions in which we consider going. Again, I appreciate the fact that Mr. Arsenal gave us such a long lead time, so that we can make sure that we are up and running the day that he leaves us.
I apologize, Mike. I looked at the date and I don't know why. I thought it was August.
Oh.
So I'm not trying to rush him out, so
Sure,
I apologize
sure.
to Ms. Arsenal. And I want to tell you, I think, and if I speak for myself, and I know I speak for the board, it will be a sad day when he leaves, because this man has gone above and beyond the position. I know it, I've seen it for a fact, so
Yep.
he'll be sorely missed.
So you'll get back to us on options and what have
Yes.
you? Okay.
Yes,
But we'd certainly
actually-
appreciate him giving us this lead notice, 'cause
Absolutely.
that's a lot of moving parts.
It would be nice if we could get somebody in there, and I know he's been trying to, so that he's willing to even train somebody, Mike, isn't he?
Yes.
So.
He's
Could he
willing
be
to
part
give
of the
us-
interviews too with you?
He very well could be, yes. I certainly could employ his services to do that. And I'm sure that he'd be more than happy to do it.
This is,
It's a hit.
it is, it's a bad hit. Okay, Mike, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, you didn't interrupt me at all. The other thing that is on the the agenda for my report is, I just wanted to bring to the board's attention, I think the board's already aware of it, so it's more, I wanted to bring it to the public's attention, those watching this meeting, that we did get a notification from the state that there was a positive West Nile virus hit in Whitman not that long ago. The Board of Health did distribute this information through their own means, but I thought it was important enough, and I asked for a copy of this from the Board of Health so that we could talk about it very briefly here at the meeting, just so as many residents as possible are aware of the fact that there was a positive test for West Nile. It's obviously a very, very serious situation, very serious condition if you were to develop it. And you can go to either our website under the Board of Health, you could go to the state websites to read about prevention and other vital information to try to protect yourself from falling under getting this particular disease. So again, very important for people to know that, and hopefully they heed the advice that they can get, again, either on our website or the state's website. The only other thing that I'll touch upon, there are two quick things I'm going to touch upon that aren't under my report. And I don't want to go too far off the agenda, but I do have a little bit of liberty in terms of what I say under my reports. I wanted to mention that the IT conversion, the operation of our computer systems, took place last week. The servers were moved. We have experienced some problems, which is to be expected in a move. We have experienced some slowing of response time in some of our computer programs. The IT company is addressing that as quickly as they can as we tell them. They've been very attentive when we've reached out to them and said there have been issues. Last Monday, not yesterday, but the previous Monday, they did have 2 of their technicians on hand here at Town Hall, which was the first day in which we went technically under their oversight to troubleshoot. So they're trying to be very, very proactive. We are looking at only so much speed, I think, that we can expect out of the setup that we have right now. So we are having initial discussions about the possibility of relocating one of our servers here. Right now they're all at the police station because they have the proper facilities in terms of not only room but environmental conditions, the cooling and whatnot that you need with these sorts of systems. But if we are not able to achieve the sort of speeds that we need to operate on a daily basis and to provide the services that the residents expect, we may be looking at either, again, bringing a system over, bringing a tower over here, or I think we really should take a look at this in the long term, and I actually may ask for some consideration of this in October at the special town meeting, running fiber from the police station to Town Hall.
Right.
And that's really what the situation is right now. That's why we've gone from black to white in this, because we did have the fiber connection that was running from the school here, but there is no fiber connection where we have the servers located right now.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I'm not sure how much of a cost driver it's going to be, but we can't go as a crow flies because we've got a big old body of water between us and the police station. So we'll have to either go up and around High Street and down Liberty, or maybe in another direction, you know, going down Main Street and up 58. So I don't know what the solution is or what the right location or the right direction is for something like that. But I really do think that it's something we're going to have to take a look at investing in. And I've already reached out to a company, and I'm trying to put some figures together to see how much that actually would be.
So the town incurs that cost, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's our capital in a sense. It's improvements to, you know, our property.
I
So
understand.
that's the IT company wouldn't be. We wouldn't expect them to pick something like that up.
Isn't Comcast fiber optic now?
Well, that's what we're working with right now, in terms of trying to do things with Comcast, but we don't have any fiber that actually connects right now between those 2 locations. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. So.
Well, Verizon's got some fiber optic in Hanson.
Yeah, only on the, like on the town lines of some.
Yeah, and my understanding as far as Verizon goes, because I ran into a similar situation in a previous town, in Avon, because we wanted to bring Verizon in to provide those sorts of services. It's extremely cost prohibitive for Verizon because apparently anything they do in this area comes out of the hub in Brockton, and apparently the system in Brockton is so old and antiquated they don't want to put the investment in right now.
No, they don't want to.
It's really, I really wouldn't expect to see that anytime soon in any of the surrounding communities, unfortunately.
No, well, I've got fiber optic in front of my house, and I've been trying to get the TV, but I can't get it.
No.
And I can't see why you can't get it. If you've got fiber optic in front of your house.
Yours comes from Hanover.
Yes, I know.
But Hanson, that's not offered to a Hanson resident, that's why.
Yeah.
So even though the
Yeah, but
fiber
why
optic-
isn't it? Why can't a company give it to you if it's in front of your house?
Yeah, that's a good point, but
Because
Verizon doesn't have a contract with the town of Hanson to offer you
I think,
fiber optics.
I think Comcast likes your service there. They like having you as a customer.
Yeah, because it's $120 just for the damn TV.
That's after your discount, though.
That isn't discounted.
No.
They added money to it.
Thanks for that update, Mike.
Don't
What do you
go
got
there.
next?
Don't go.
The one
Ken's
other
just
thing that I wanted to
poking bear
mention
now.
I
is.
know he is.
The one other
Don
thing
knows.
I wanted to mention was, I went to, last night I was at a planning board meeting, and we discussed a couple of different items, and I found the planning board to be very open to my suggestions, along with town clerk Beth Sloan, as well as we brought in legal counsel Kate Federoff from Jay's firm. We discussed moving forward with as I had said to the board a meeting or two ago, putting something on the October town warrant town meeting warrant to basically put retail marijuana in the existing location that we have medicinal marijuana. I couldn't say that word last night either for some reason. And they were originally opposed to that, but in our discussions, we went through the reasons why we would want to do something like that, namely the fact that the state, as we've said on several occasions, the state doesn't even know how they wish to move forward on something like this. And if we were to go through and create all sorts of bylaws and all sorts of explicit zoning that we very well could find when the state does get their act together, that everything goes out the window and we've wasted time and money and agina over it. So,
And we made in reverse what we have done, too. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mike. Yeah.
So, the one thing that they did ask, and I wasn't in opposition to it, was that if the article to locate retail marijuana in that one section fails, they would like to come up with a secondary article that would zone it somewhere else in town. So I said, go forward with it. We'll work with Jay, we'll work with Kate in terms of trying to put something together. But again, I just don't want the town, and I expressed this on a number of occasions last night, I just don't want the town to be put in a bad position and caught flat-footed. Because, as I said, the state doesn't know how this is going to work. How are we going to know how it works?
You're saying designate the area that we already did up at the industrial park?
Just for now.
Just for now.
Just for now. And then, 6 months, 9 months, a year from now, when the state finally is able to put out rules and regs and guidance, we go back and then we follow all of that.
So you're concerned about if they came out with guidance tomorrow and we don't have that in place, we could have pot shops everywhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
We've got to have some sort of control over
I
this
agree
going
with that.
forward. And the other thing that I will bring to the board's attention, probably within the next month or so, is, and again, a suggestion that came from legal counsel, is for us to put some sort of semblance of a policy together for the Board of Selectmen to grant permits for these sorts of operations. So again, we have something in place. It may not be perfect, but it'll be something as opposed to...
We'll have a little control over it.
So we would follow essentially the same procedure we have for liquor license?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So they can't put it up next to a schools and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So...
You want to start signing those?
Huh?
Donnie wants to sign the stuff.
Want to sign them?
Speaking of...
Just go ahead, Mike. He's not trying to rush you.
See how smoothly he transitioned
Yes.
into
No.
that? That was slick,
So
Tom.
that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
I'll tell you what, Mike, are you speaking to the prioritization of the complete streets projects? Do you want to slip into that too, or not?
Well, I think basically what we're looking for, and
Item 11.
Apparently, there were some things that happened apparently when I was absent. Basically, I believe the state is just looking for, and our town planner is just looking for, the Board of Selectmen to vote, and I think the board voted previously on this, but there were some slight changes made at the state level, just to support, to vote to support what the state has
proposed?
Yes.
I see they've got 18, so they've got 18 items on this list. Okay, guys? And
Which one number's that?
That item 11. Item 11. And if you look at it's a spreadsheet.
And it's very small print.
Right, but you can expand it.
Big paper.
Yeah, yeah.
Because we looked at it before, Mike, but how do we know what was changed?
Well, that's it.
Possible to table
By the
this, Mr.
state?
Chairman.
Was it redlined, or do we have it, like?
Not what I got back. It came back in this format in the order, and honestly, I don't know what was the specific change.
If it's just a reshuffling of the priorities, then I guess I could understand it.
It is reshuffling of the priorities.
Yeah, it is.
That's the only change. And if you'll notice, guys, if it'll help you, that's what I noticed. It was a reshuffle of the priorities, that it really hadn't changed from what we had.
Right.
What I would have preferred the spreadsheet to have would have been, well, if you'll notice in the column to the far right, okay? Those are the dates that they're proposing these items will be completed by. And if you'll notice, priority 1 says September of 2017. They should be, that's the desired construction start date, forgive me, not completion, start date. So they're gonna start with item 1 in 2017, and it moves along to each one of the years, going up to 2027. Excuse me. Yes, 2027.
That's in front of Dunkin' Donuts.
Actually, yeah. And actually, it goes up to 2030, Mike, forgive me.
I guess the way I would address
Guess I won't be here.
Laura's concerns, and
You'll be here
I
before
can
me.
appreciate Laura's concerns, is that when these were presented in its previous version to the Board of Selectmen, the priorities had been chosen by staff, and the Board of Selectmen was comfortable to go with the recommendations of staff. And obviously, Laurie has looked through these, and she's comfortable at this point asking for the Board of Selectmen's support in moving forward with the way that it's been reordered.
Reordered?
Yeah, fair enough. I just, you
No,
know,
and
it puts us in a weird position because we don't really necessarily have the time that I would like to just do a compare, you know, a version to version compare. But if you're representing that Lori's vetted this and she feels comfortable that nothing was added in that we wouldn't be aware of, and, you know,
Only the priorities
yeah,
are
it's just a reshuffling of priorities, then I don't have a problem with it.
I'll have a motion.
100,000.
Yeah.
So you can
And
only
the
do one
police chief,
project.
he spoke about that when he was here that night.
Yep.
A few meetings back.
The main
about
two
that intersection.
intersections are the one across the street.
Yes.
And the one down in High and County and
Yeah, the
Liberty.
big difference was the amount of accidents, 86 to 5.
Yes.
Right, right.
I think I can safely say, although I don't want to stick my life on it, I can safely say in looking this over that the main priorities are still there.
Right.
And I think Don may have just touched upon that. I think the
Yep.
things that were most important, not only to the board, but to staff, are still there. I think some of the shuffling may have taken place, and some of the stuff that, you know, we want to have on the table, but is much further down.
Could you, I'll tell you what, Mike, could we put it in the motion that, you know, contingent upon your checking, and as long as Laurie approves, that there's been no changes other than the reshuffling and the priority of these items since when we last approved it, to accept this as
So
stated.
moved.
Yes.
Motion's been
Second.
made and seconded. Is that good, Laura? Yeah. Jim, you good with it too?
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain?
Nope, I'm for it.
You're for it?
Sorry.
4-0-1.
Yep.
One abstention. Okay, moving along. We have the selectmen's goals for the town administrator. You should,
Basically, Mr. Chairman.
item 10.
I had been asked, which made sense, and I was going to put together in writing the list as I understood it. So hopefully you all have that in front of you. Hopefully that's everyone agrees that that is a list. Certainly, I don't want to call that an exclusive list. If things come up,
Yep.
that we wish to add to it, I'm certainly happy to add anything. But as it stands now, that's the list, the baseline, let's say.
That's not in any priority, right?
No, it's
No.
not in any priority, no.
So that's what I was gonna ask, Mike, is like, I'm wondering if you can pop that into a Excel spreadsheet of some sort, and maybe give us your best guess at, timelines and
Yep.
priorities, and then we can respond to it?
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Mike, there was one thing I thought that I mentioned, but that might be missing from this, and I apologize, I just noticed it. It was the more sidewalks, even though that's really
You did
probably.
mention that, yeah.
I had mentioned that, Mike. I don't know if you could just make it
Yeah,
a potential goal as best you can. I will tell you, it goes to Mary's point she mentioned earlier, that how long have we had that capital plan on the matrix?
There's just no
you
money
know?
for it.
So, as best you can, Mike, because
Yep.
I've seen more people trying to get out, walk more, and they're walking on the main streets, and it's
Well,
getting,
with the
Our
complete
streets
streets,
are
we
too
will get
narrow
that.
to walk on.
yeah, I
We
know.
will get some with the
Some.
complete streets.
As
We're
long as we
not
do a
gonna
little-
get- Not
make a little
necessarily where
58.
I would want them,
Yeah.
but,
Route 58's the only one.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking of West Elm, I've seen some
I'd like
moms
more,
walking
Maine,
their kids.
you know?
Okay.
Yep, it'll
Thank
be
you.
added.
Thank you very much.
And like I said, I'm perfectly
best.
happy this being a living document.
Yeah, you can put as best in parentheses too, Mike, because I know it may not be achievable, so. Okay, so I have, next on our agenda is the one-day liquor licenses. And am I understanding correctly, we have to read each one of these, is that correct, Mary?
No, you can do it as
We've
printed.
got them all.
So I would,
We've approved them
I
all.
would make a motion to accept the one-day liquor licenses
So
as
moved.
stated in the agenda.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I think all of them are weddings. Congratulations to
Yeah,
those
that's
people
good.
up there, yeah.
Being somebody from New
1, 2,
Jersey.
Isn't this
3,
his bone
4,
up there?
5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
11.
That's terrific. Okay, so that should take us right through the end of September, I think, on those. That's great. Next, we have committee reports, the Monpont Pond Committee. Mr. Howard.
Yes, I have here a report I received August 10th.
It's late. It's 40,000.
On Monday, August 7th, the DPP collected water samples at East and West Monpont ponds. And it is now, West Monpont pond sample showed cyanobacteria levels of 70,800. And at the 4th Avenue Beach, it's 85,700. So now the West Monpont pond now is above the 70,000 level for cyanobacteria.
Thank you, Donnie.
In East Lake, I don't think there was hardly any cyanobacteria at all, so you know that the normal water flow would have been from east to west to Stump Brook,
Okay.
and that's the way it should be, but it doesn't. So when they take water, it reverses all that cyanobacteria
Back up.
right into East Lake and into Silver Lake.
And I know Wampatuck Pond has got some warnings posted out there too, is that correct?
Yeah, it is, but I don't know what the
Right, no,
count
that's cool.
is.
Yeah.
But at least nothing's used for drinking, and the animals and the ducks and the geese are still out there, so it can't be that bad.
Sure. Absolutely.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, Mr. Howard. Next, we have the final Plymouth County Hospital Reuse Committee.
I think we've gone over that tonight.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have the Hanson School Repair Committee, Mr. Hickey.
Bob Hayes is very excited that I'm on that committee. We spoke shortly outside.
That's terrific.
That's it. Oh, sorry, yeah. That's the, well, everything is good.
Everything is
You
good.
know?
Okay.
If you cheated, you had Bob come in and do it for you.
Yep.
Yeah. The Highway Building Committee.
We meet on Monday night, so the next meeting I will bring you an update.
Thank you.
But I do have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And I just want to state for our viewers, we had on our agenda the executive session, but there is no executive
All right,
session
so
tonight.
everything good is what you've proposed.
Everything.
We're just going to announce that we
I
don't
think-
have an executive session?
Yes, no executive session has been announced, just to let folks know. And a motion has been made and seconded. Who was it seconded by?
I didn't hear anybody second.
Did, who was
I'll
it?
second it.
Okay. Did you make the
Thank you,
motion too?
Don.
No,
No,
Kenny made the
I
motion.
made the motion.
Just to
He
get-
beat me.
just
I'm
to
glad
make sure-
somebody's paying attention.
Just to make sure Mary's got to write the notes. So I want to thank you all for coming tonight, and thank you all for being here. Let's put it to vote. All those in favor to adjourn, say aye. Aye. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol.
I just have
Thank you,
liquor
Carol. Good
licenses.
to see you.
They left a lot.
Thank you to Paul.